Hello friends, welcome to Universe of Naruto X. If you love Naruto what if stories and anime explanations, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Now let's begin today's story. Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Audio Fanfics and we are back with a new fanfic which is what if Nar returned to Konoha as an X-Man and Ino, Rogue, Gone Grey, Hinata and Tamari fell for him part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Ino and Hinata were watching Naruto talk on that device again. But mom, no. The blonde was speaking that language again. And the girl had spent the last 2 months learning it as they both wanted to impress Naruto's family when they met them. Mom, Nar yelled. And both girls knew that as his embarrassed yell, both girls had gotten him to do it several times and smiled. Got to go, mom. I'll call you later. Bye. Nar shut off the communicator and sighed. Your mom picking on you, Narokan. Ino said with a grin. Not really. She's just worried about me being all alone here. She and Papa are planning to come and visit sometime soon. Shino arrived more and Shino, the trio said. Morning, he said in his usual flat tone. None of his teammates took it personal. They learned that's how he was. They saw Anko bouncing from foot to foot, while looking rather pleased as she came closer. This was a subdued entrance for her as Karnai had banned her from her more explosive arrivals after the Jonin had torched Karnai's favorite stand. Karini arrived with a leaf shushin and smiled. I am so proud of all of you. In the last 2 months as a team, you've managed to complete nearly 120 dank missions, averaging 2 a day, along with training. She pulled out a scroll. This morning I spoke with the Hokage and since we are way ahead of the other teams, he has granted us permission to begin C-rank missions. 5 cheers met this Anko being the loudest. Shaking her head at her fellow John's antics, she continued, our first C-rank mission is a simple escort. We are to provide protection for some farmers against bandits so that they can get their goods to the market town. Possible fight, sweet, Anko muttered. Ino raised her hand. How long is this mission looking sensei? About a week as they are paying for our protection during their time at the market town and then back to Konoha. Hinata and Ino exchanged a look. We will be camping outside on the journey and once we get to the town, we'll see what rooms are available. The girls shared a look, then both looked at Naruto, who was looking off to the distance, a thoughtful look in his eyes. Her and I caught it and shook her head. Both Ino and Hinata had come a long way and she knew that they would make their moves soon. Wonder if Anko and I should have a talk with them. I know Hinata's father never would have and she's emancipated now and Ino's dad wouldn't. So go and gather our gear for a week-long mission and meet Anko and I at the west gate. The 4 genin headed off but Karana stopped Nar. Yes, sensei he asked. I just want your word that the extracurricular activities won't be used on this mission. Nar raised an eyebrow. I'm not sure what you mean, sensei, he said. She smirked. Nar, I've heard about the rash of robberies. I won't say something because I noticed they are from the corrupt council members, villagers, and ninja. Just be careful. The Hokage has asked Ibiki to look into it since the Chunin assigned can't find anything. Nar paused. How did you find out? He asked. A friend of mine runs the pawn shop. The fact you're giving the money to help the poor and the needy says a lot, Nar. But don't steal from clients or on missions without permission. He nodded. You going to tell the old man or the others? No, this way if the Hokage is asked, he won't have to lie. And what about you? Nar asked. Karinai laughed. Anko and I used to roll many of the drunk perverts and give the money to girls they tried to force themselves on. Hell, if you ever need help, I'm sure myself or Anko would help. Nar was stunned to say the least. Sensei, now shush. Well talk no more about it unless you want to. And don't think I didn't see you rob the Hyugas and get things and scrolls for Hinata. Nar shrugged. She deserved them. Her father had them locked away. I just made sure they made their way to their proper owner. Karinai nodded. She'd seen the box with scrolls and letters from Hinata's mother to her that her father had made sure she never got. There were copies of the Hyuga family scrolls, and there was a scroll with a tattoo that once applied would nullify the caged bird seal. Karana and Anko had put it on Hinata that very day at the base of her neck, just in case the Hyuga clan got any ideas of coming after her still with her no longer in their control. Now go and get ready, she ordered, and Naruto with a BMF vanished. That boy has so many skills and yet he's hiding so much more. She thought as she left with a leaf shush to get her own gear. Ino and Hinata were packed and after telling Ino's mother they would be gone for a week, they left for the west gate. So Hinata, are you pondering what I'm pondering? Ino asked as they approached the gate. I think so, Enoch-chan. But do we have a tent for 3? Ino stopped and looked at the girl who 2 months ago was quiet and shy. Then she spends time with me and Naruto and she's Ino got a mental image of the 3 of them sharing a tent and smiled. She's got some damn good ideas. I don't, but I'm sure we can snuggle nicely in a two-person tent. Both girls giggled. Hey Hinata. Yes. Has Narun told you about what a mutant is yet? Ino asked. Just a bit. He hasn't said what he can do yet. The pale-eyed girl looked at him. I think he's afraid. Ino shook her head. Narut had talked to them about the extra strand in his DNA. Well, he had to explain a lot of the science involved. How if they had children, they could have mutant abilities as well, but not like his. I don't know why. He said that in the world above, there are hate groups that fear and hate mutants. He told me families kicked out their own children. Some even tried to kill them for being born with a genetic gift. Hinata sighed. I truthfully think of the mutations as bloodlines that aren't specific to one family. I mentioned that to Narutkin, and he smiled softly at that. They continued on in silence for a bit. So, where did Narukin take you the other night? Ino asked. Hinata smiled. We went to the tea garden. It was romantic. He got us a place near the pond, and we watched the fireflies. Hinata paused and looked at Ino. Where did he take you the night before? Ino smiled. You know that play that was opening. We went to that, Ino said. And our date tonight is cancelled due to work. Ino sighed. Well, just have to plan something for when we get back. Hinata said tonight was to be both girls out with Narut and the mission cut into that. They reached the gate and saw Shino there with a pack on his back. Enko was leaning against the gate tormenting the Chunin guards. Kurenai was walking towards them with the clients and their wagons. Where's Narutkin? Ino asked Enko without breaking her annoying of the guards pointed up and both girls looked up to see him sticking to the doors using chakra. They also noticed he was juggling Kana with his eyes closed. The Chunin guard looked up and swore moving away as Narut had been right above him. Enko snorted and looked at Kurana. Teammate ready for C-rank mission. The snake Jonin reported very well. Let's go, Naruto. You've got point, Kurenai said, and the blonde leapt off the door as it opened. And before he hit the ground, there were a dozen cage bunchon and they fanned out leaping well ahead of the group. Shino roving perimeter. Kurana continued. Enko, Hinata flank, and Ino and I will take rear guard. They fanned out. The client looked on. Kids ninja. Kurana corrected. Kind of young, aren't they? And do you really trust the boy? The man said shooting a look to where Naruto was moving ahead. Nar is a ninja of Konoha. You will treat him and the others with the respect due. They are here to protect you and your merchandise. Kurenai fell back, her red eyes hardening as she took in the merchant and his group. This is going to be a long mission. She thought if Enko don't kill them, I might. The first day out was quiet and uneventful. When Kurana called for camp, she'd been surprised to see the Naruto clones already have an area set up and prepared. They were lighting the fires then vanished in puffs of smoke. All set. Kurana-sensei, the original Nar said, putting his pack down near a boulder. She saw it was a good spot. A half ring of boulders, a felled tree in the stream nearby. You did good, Nar. The others can get more wood and set up the bed rolls. You're not using tents, the merchant asked. No, it's a nice night. Well, where are we going to sleep? The man asked. Kurana pulled his bed roll of his wagon and tossed it at him. We're here to guard you, not pamper you. Enko said. Come on, Shino. Well, fish for our dinner. Hinata and Ino were setting up the bed rolls. Kurina noted that they set theirs up on either side of Nato's. She set up hers and Enko's across from them, and she nosed between the two groups. She saw the merchants setting up away from the fire and shook her head. You want me to dig them a pit, sensei? Nar asked. No, if they don't want to share this one, we aren't pampering them. Kurana said. Sit. You did good today. Nar shrugged and pulled out a deck of cards and began to shuffle them. Did you feel any drain from using your clones for so long? Kurini asked. Nar shook his head. I can use 1,000 all day long and each using various high-level jutsu without feeling it. Kurenai watched the cards in his hands. They were a blur as he shuffled and adjusted them. I guess no matter what I do, I won't be accepted by the populace of Konoha. Naruto finally said. Kurini sighed. She had hoped Nar hadn't heard the grumbling of the merchants, but she was wrong. Ignore them. They won't know you and they won't matter. You have people who accept you. She saw his gaze look over towards the girls. They won't leave you, Nar. In the past 2 months, the three of you have formed bonds that will not break. Trust them, love them, for they do love and trust you. I'm scared, sensei, he said lowly. I made friends before in the world above. Everything was great. Then they found out I was a mutant. They turned on me, attacked me. I ended up leaving the public school and was homeschooled in the institute. After that, Kurenai put a hand on his shoulder. You explain to me what a mutant is. Truthfully, it sounds like a specialized Kek Jenk to me. Whatever you can do, Nar. It won't matter to any of us. We are your teammates and friends. Teammates. The word echoed through Naruto's mind while Karina walked off to help with getting wood for the fire. Smoked fish was good for dinner and Shino surprised them all by pulling out a lyre and after tuning it stroked the chords. Hey, I didn't know you could play, Nar said. Shino shrugged. My mother insisted I learn to play an instrument when I was younger. Nar rummaged around and pulled out a flute. Funny one. My aunts insisted the same thing. Sadly, that led to numerous instruments. After getting the fingering right, Naruto played a melody and Shino seemed to know it, and they played a haunting ballad. When they were done, both Ino and Hinata glumped Naruto both had tears in their eyes. He put an arm around each and whispered lowly to them while Shino put his lyre away in its sealed scroll. Enko cleared her throat and said she was going to wash her hands in the river and Kurenai wiped her own eyes. She looked over and saw that the merchants had sad looks in their eyes. Enko will take first watch. Kurenai said finding her voice. The Nar and Shino, Ino and Hinata. I'll take last watch, she said after Nar calmed both girls down. She watched as they went to their bed rolls. That was sad and yet one of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. Kurana thought as she watched as both girls used Naruto's shoulders as their pillows. Shino nodded at her before laying down as well. They arrived around mid-morning. The merchants set up their stall while Kurana gave the genin of teammate the time off to explore. Enko and I will watch over the client for now. Go look around, have lunch, and come back this afternoon. They nodded and parted ways. Shino excused himself, saying he wanted to check out the local flora and see what insects were in the area, leaving Nar and the girls alone and trying to figure out where to eat. It took nearly 10 minutes. Très bien, Nar said with a grin after the girls decided where they were going to get a bite to eat. Trace what? Ino asked. Très bien. It means very well, Nar said looping arms with both Ino and Hinata. Once there, Hinata excused herself, leaving Ino and Naruto at the table, telling them what to order for her. Hinata slipped into the ladies' room and sealed the door after making sure no one else was in there. She broke down in deep hacking coughs. Pulling her hand back, she saw it was covered in blood. No, I need more time, she thought. She checked herself in the mirror once more after checking herself over and left, arriving back at the table to see the two blondes laughing. No way. Ino was saying, oh yeah, Bobby and Kurt had a prank war. Shame that neither realized I was pranking them both. Ino saw Hinata and smiled. He was telling me about the great prank war back at the institute, she said. Hinata smiled. He told me that one the other night. I'm surprised you didn't get caught. Nar smiled. Well, as long as I only pranked them and left everyone else alone. Then Jean and the professor swore they would never tell anyone. Besides, it was fun watching Logan chase Bobby, who he thought stole his imported beer. Both girls shook their heads at the blonde. So, you've been in Konoha for 2 months now. What do you think? Ino asked. Nar sipped his water. Well, it's my birthplace, but my family is in the world above. He twirled a chopstick. I want to go home. He looked at both girls, his blue eyes asking for understanding. Konoha has always been painful for me. The two of you have made this a brighter place, but truthfully, I don't think I'd raise my family in Konoha. There's just been too much hate thrown my way for it ever to be forgiven. Both girls nodded sadly, understanding. They've both been approached by villagers when they were away from Nar. It had taken Hinata hitting pressure points on Ino's neck to keep her from killing the man and then calling Inoichi to come and get Ino and take her home while Hinata dealt with the villager before handing them over to Anbu who arrived moments later. Their food arrived and Naro laughed when both girls wanted him to taste their meals and both tried to feed him at the same time. Easy there, mon cherries. I only have one mouth, Nar said as he deftly avoided the chopsticks with food. How about we do it this way? I'll try Anakin's first, then Hinata-chan's. Then Hinata-chan can try some of mine and then Enoch-chan. Then Hinata-chan tries some of Anakin's and Enoch-chan some of Hinata-chan's. The male of the group suggested. Both agreed and it proved to be an enjoyable meal as they shared all around off each other's plates. They shared stories and both girls listened as Naruto talked about his extended family. I'd like to meet them, Ino said, and Hinata nodded as well since her mouth was full of baked chicken at the time. Soon, Nar said with a grin. They finished their shared meal and Nar paid the bill. They walked the streets leisurely looking around at the same time marking streets and paths they would need to do their job. Shino rejoined them and Nar smiled, seeing the bug user with cotton candy. My bugs wanted something sweet, Shino said, defending his snack. All you need is a balloon and you'd look like you went for a day at the fair. Nar said as they continued walking. So find any bugs you liked. Nar asked. Shino tilted his head a fraction of an inch. Some have proven informative. He said the girls were ahead of the pair whispering. Was your lunch date enjoyable? Shino asked. It was fun. I still don't see what both of them like about me enough to share, but I'm going to let them set the pace. Nar said, swiping a hunk of cotton candy, ignoring the buzzing from the hive inside his teammate. It's a bite. You aren't going to eat it all, Nar said, popping it into his mouth and allowing the sugary treat to melt in his mouth. Shino stepped out of reach and the blonde knew his friend and he called Shino his friend was playing. Now, you can't fool me, Shino. If you were mad, your bugs would have swarmed the candy before it got to my mouth. Naruto saw the eyebrow twitch and for Shino that was near enough to admission of a chuckle. He'd heard Shino laugh once. It was the sound of his voice enhanced by the buzzing of his hive as well. So the merchant thinks you're the Kyobi still. Shino said as they continued to walk. Ino and Hinata were getting a bit further ahead. Yeah, a lot of the villagers refused to believe the furball is dead as a doornail. Nar had unconsciously pulled his cards out and was shuffling them. I've been meaning to ask. Shino began and Naruto looked at him with his smirk, knowing Shino would eventually speak his mind. You carry an odd assortment of weapons from a standard pack of shuriken and kana to multiple decks of cards, and I've seen the card-shaped shuriken as well. And the question is, Naruto asked with a smirk. You've talked about mutations and how they can be confused with a keek jank. Is yours something related to that trick you do when you charge an item to blow up? Naruto laughed. What is so funny? Shino asked, ignoring the fact the blonde managed to swipe another hunk of his cotton candy. I was wondering how long it would take before any of you started to wonder what I could do. And no, I used the second chakra source to do that. Your BAM port then. Nope. Same as your last question, Nar said smiling. You'll never figure it out, Shino. I've been very careful not to use my gift. Now, if Magneto was here, well it would be interesting, but I have nothing major to worry about. I mean, I can use either my chakra or the second source to do a lot. Logan would be proud. I've grown up and don't show off as much as I used to. Your reflexes? Shino inquired. Nope. Sorry. Those were modified by the KOB before it passed on. Nar knew the bug user was getting curious as both eyebrows were twitching and he could hear the hive buzzing as they communicated with Shino. Hey Nar looked to see Ino looking back and tapping her foot. Hurry up slowpokes. We need to take over so out senses can get something to eat. As you wish Enaheim Nar swiped another hunk of cotton candy and rushed to join her and Hinata leaving a pondering Shino walking slowly lost in thought. What can you do Nar? Is it something we've seen? Or do you have more layers hidden like my father thinks? Shino thought as he continued on after his teammates. The puzzle of his teammates swirling around his analytical mind like a stirred up hornet's nest. Kurenai and Enko left the four genin watching over the merchants. Don't help them set up. We're just here to guard them, not their labor. Kurini said to the four after they returned. They saw her send a glare at the head merchant and Enko looked ready to kill. And don't take any lip from that fat one. Which one? Naruto asked with a grin. Enko smirked and put an arm around his shoulder and pulled him close, ignoring the twin snarls from Ino and Hinata as she used a kunai to point to the target. That one there with the triple chin and smells of whiskey and bacon. Nar snorted. Too much time in the sun for him, I guess. His fat's frying. Enko laughed and mused his hair up before letting him go. Naruto just gave her a long-suffering sigh. Bad enough, Tabby and Bobby do that to me, but now she does it as well. Oh well, just hope her and Logan never get to know one another or I'll be bleeding a lot more. Keep watch for now. Well set up a schedule over dinner, and once they're in their hotel rooms for the night, her and I was saying, Nar, you're in charge till we get back, well be about 2 hours. Nar nodded to the Redate Jonin. Everything will be fine until you return. Sensei, he said. She looked at him for a minute, then nodded. She and Enko left and the four genin planned out their watch posts. Hey BRZ, one of the merchants called. The genin ignored them as Hinata with Chakra walked up the wall in the alley and took a position on the roof. Shino took up a similar position across the way. Ino and Nar played evens or odds which Ino lost and Naruto crossed the street leaving her near the stand. Hey, I'm talking to you. The merchant said, what do you want? Ino asked. You and your friends to unload the wagon and finish setting up the stall. Ino laughed. We're not your servants. We were hired to guard you. That's all. If you want labor, do it yourself or pay someone to do it. Why, you little. The man raised his hand as if to strike her. But a hand caught the man's wrist. You ever raise your arm to her or any of my teammates again. And client or no client, I will gut you like the Goe. You are Ms. Marchand, Naruto said coldly. The focused killing intent had the merchant soiling himself and shaking in fear. Naruto looked at Ino. Take the spot across the seat at the cafe Sherry. I'll take watch here until our sensei's return. She nodded and kissed his cheek. At his look, she smiled. Your chivalry, my white ninja. Ino went across the street. Non-Myanmar, never white, more gray. I am a low after all. Nar thought watching her walk, his eyes following her hips. Shaking his head, he looked back at the shaking merchant. Get back to your wares and be warned. I will be informing my sensei of this incident as well as filing my report with the Hokage. The next time you and yours hire Konoha ninja, it will cost you more for the way you treat ninja. Naruto let the man's hand go and the semifat merchant skirted away. Hope he changes clothes. He reeks. Nar thought leaning against the building, his eyes sweeping the street. The earlink told him Hinata and Shino agreed with his actions. Kurenai was not happy with the client when her and Anko returned 2 hours later. Nar noticed both looked a little ruffled. Anko had a smirk on her face when they were walking, but now both Jonan were considering dropping the client. Keep that monster away. The client snarled. Kurana looked at him. So, you don't want our protection then? Nar is a ninja of Konoha, a member of our squad. You refuse him. That means you're refusing us. Does this mean you wish to cancel your contract for my squad's protection? Naruto smiled as Kurana was looking to hurt the fat bastards where it hurt the most, in the pocket. That's not what I mean. The merchant said, why can't you send him back for another ninja? Because he is our squadmate. If you wish us gone, then by all means, well leave. But you will still have to pay for our time here, as well as negotiate for a new team to be sent out. That is, if any are available. Anko was sitting with the genin and trying not to laugh as Kurana was just getting started. You can't leave us here defenseless. Bandits will rob us, the merchant yelled. Then in the minds of Squad 8. It sounded like a squeal. You're telling me to abandon one of my team because he prevented one of your people from striking his teammate when she refused to be his slave labor. Kurana was getting mad, not in raising her voice kind of way, but the cold look in her eyes that spoke of imminent pain and death for the fools that pissed her off. Naruto knew one thing. Kurenai reminded him of Storm and his mother along with Aunt Wanda. And getting those three mad was not an option. Even the famed Wolverine slunk from the room when all three were mad, especially at the same time. The merchant hemmed and hawed for 10 minutes before collapsing and saying that teammate would remain. Nar snorted and slipped to the rooftop. He was joined 5 minutes later by Ino. You okay? She asked, sitting next to him on the ledge. I'd be fine, Cher, Nar said, his hands shuffling cards, his blue-on-black eyes scanning the street. Be best if I took path of least resistance and avoided them. Wish I could. Nar stopped shuffling and reached out to touch her cheek, getting her to jump when she got shocked. Sorry about that, Nar said, pulling his hand back quickly. Damn it, not good. Need to do something. Ino however felt something in herself awaken at that. Damn it, not good. Need to do something. What did you say? Ino asked, looking at Nar. I said I was sorry about that. Nar said looking at her. No. After that, Ino said, what do you need to do something about? Naruto's eyes widened. A crap and nothing, Enoch-chan. Nar said, and he felt his mental barriers slam shut. Damn it. I got lazy not being around telepaths and let my barriers drop. Wait, Ino read my mind. Not well, but does that mean? Ino, did you use a jutsu? Nar asked. Confused. She shook her head. No. She wanted to know what Nar meant. What did you mean when you said you had to do something? She asked. Nar realized that she didn't know he hadn't said it aloud and shrugged, trying to buy time till he could talk to someone who knew better. I just need to do something. You know, restless and too much energy, he said. Ino smiled and leaned in. It was then that Naruto noticed the vine her hand had been on, and his mind made the connections quicker. But his mind went white as Ino kissed him. He felt her straddle his lap, and the cards in his hand slipped onto the roof as his hands were cupping her nicely shaped posterior. Cher, what are you doing to me? Neither teen noticed the vine next to them sprout buds then bloom into a beautiful flower. However, a pair of Byakugan eyes did from across the street. Hinata smiled as she watched Ino try and cheer up Nar. She knew the stupid merchant's words had hurt the blonde boy, and she wished she could do it, but Ino was quicker. She watched as they talked, and she watched as Ino leaned in and kissed him, then straddled him. Hey, that's not fair, Hinata thought as she watched Nar hold onto Ino via gripping her backside. She blushed a bit, then smiled as the two deepened the kiss. She noticed the vine next to them grow and bloom. Is that Naruto's power? He can control plants. She smiled a bit seeing the two making out and jumped when someone beside her coughed. She turned to look at Anko. Anko-sensei. She eat the name out. Lucky girl. This going to cause trouble on the team? Anko asked and Hinata shook her head. We share him. I'll get my turn later. She said with an impish grin. Anko raised an eyebrow. I should say the Gaki is lucky. Hinata blushed. Ino. And I decided between us that we would share Nar. He tried to talk us out of it, even said he would let us set the pace as he has had before. Hinata blushed and Enko looked interested. Has he now? She looked up at the roof where the pair were still kissing. Hey, Enchin, best get the hose. Those two don't need air, it seems. Leave them alone, Enko. Hinata jumped and nearly screamed as Kurana appeared behind her. She looked at her sensei and thought both women were grinning now. Stop it, she said. Enko grinned even more. Kurenai looked up in her head. Don't they need to breath sometime? Doesn't seem like it. Enko answered, her eyes on the blonde pair. Maybe that's his power. The ability to kiss like that. So Hinata, has he kissed you like that before? Hinata's blush answered them and both women laughed. Hey, keep it rated PG. Enko yelled and smiled when both blondes separated as if electrocuted. Maybe I should chaperone the Gaki, Enko said with a leer. Actually, I will. You stay close to the client, Kurenai said as she shined up to the roof. Unfair, Enko muttered as she headed towards the client. Hinata smiled and gave the blondes a wink before she searched the street for any signs of trouble. Hey, sensei, Naruto said as Kurani was looking at the both of them as they got to their feet. Ino, why don't you go across the way to another roof? I need to speak with Naruto. Kurana saw the girl looked ready to argue, but a look from Naruto had her nod. She gave him a quick kiss and leapt across the street. Naruto looked at his sensei. I'm not going to lecture you about having a relationship with Ino nor Hinata. I'm not even going to tell you not to show them affection on a mission. He relaxed a bit. I won't even yell at you when they slip into your room tonight. She had to fight a laugh at his look. So, what are you going to yell at me about then? Nar asked. Not a thing. And remember what I told you before we left Konoha? Kurini asked. He nodded and she saw his look focusing on the merchants below. If they pull something like that again, you have permission to help them lighten their hearts and wallets. Nar gave her feral grin. And Nar, she said, getting his attention. Yes, sensei. We get half. Naruto's laugh had the three genin and Enko looking up to the rooftop. The time passed quickly and the merchants, despite being cold to the ninja team, sold their wares. They were on their way back to Konoha. Naruto was quiet. His mind was spinning with the knowledge that Ino was more than just a kunoichi. His pack was carrying another 200,000 ryo. The merchants were yelling at Kurana about the lack of protection, even though they'd been told to stay away from their hotel room. The merchants were blaming the genin and their sensei for not protecting their money. Idiots. They wouldn't let us do our job and whine when they were robbed. Nar thought he'd already decided to split the money with the rest of the team. Kurenai gave him a wink the morning the merchants had shown up at their hotel room screaming about being robbed. Hinata and Ino were bringing up the rear with Enko. All three were talking and laughter could be heard. Nar looked over his shoulder as he'd taken point. Shino was with the merchants and Kurana was coming up on him. We're almost back to Konoha, he said. She nodded. You okay? I'm fine, sensei, he said, and laughter could be heard from behind. Did they have to do that? Kurenai smiled and put a hand on his shoulder. They are happy that and they are so proud to be going out with you. Nar shrugged. Yeah, but did Enko-sensei have to kick the door in like that? Her and I laughed. I don't know, but the photos will come in handy for blackmail later. Nar groaned. He knew there would be trouble when Ino and Hinata had slipped into his room. He'd woken to be double-kissed and found Hinata in a night shirt, straddling his waist, and Ino to the side, nibbling his neck. Before he'd gotten a chance to enjoy the sensations, Enko had kicked the door in. And how much will that cost me? He asked. Kurana smirked. We'll talk about it later, but there best be no ventures into Mei and Ananko's apartment. Nar smirked. So, does Enko snore or hog the covers? Kurana scowled. Keep that to yourself, brat. The last thing we need is the bigots and perverts of Konoha knowing. Your secret is safe with me, he said. He looked over his shoulder. You want me to rescue poor Shino? Kurina looked over her shoulder and sighed. The merchant was griping still and he was ranting at Shino. I'll go. You might gotcha. Nar said. Kurenai fell back and picked up the conversation. And being teamed with that demon child. I mean really. When we get back to Konoha, I am filing a complaint with the Hokage, and I will demand that the abomination be stripped of his ninja rank. I wouldn't put it past the demon child to have allowed the bandits to steal all our money. Shino remained silent for a moment. You denied us all our duty. Your words were to stay away from your hotel, and we did. The fault lies with you and your people. The demons twisted your mind. I see. Don't worry, child. I will see that thing is dealt with in your ninja career back on track. Shino, go share point with Nar. I think I need to have several words with our client. Kurana ordered. The bug user nodded and leapt ahead to join Nar. Kurana looked at the merchant who looked very nervous. I will be filing my report with the Hokage upon our return, and I will not leave out the decisions you made, nor the abuse you've hurled at one of my ninja. She focused her red eyes on him. And be aware that all of the ninja of Konoha will know how you treated their own. She put several paces between her and them, ignoring the man's sputtering. She did it to save the man's life because she was tempted to put him in a genjutsu and slit his throat. She took several deep breaths and saw Naro and Shino ahead, the blonde chattering at the silent amber. She was glad her team stuck together and that Shino didn't listen to the merchant's words. I need to get us a job that will utilize Naruto's skills. I think he's got a talent that Konoha is overlooking and we could really clean up on missions. She looked over her shoulder, hearing another group of giggles. Enko's more relaxed than she's ever been, unless it's just us away from everyone. She watched the snake John and laughing with the girls. Kurana's eyes latched onto Hinata who had fallen behind. She watched as the girl coughed into her sleeve. Oh, Hinata, when are you going to tell them? She thought she'd watched the girl grow up and she knew what was wrong, but oaths forbade her from saying anything unless Hinata did first. I just hope it's not too late when she tells them. And I thought, home sweet home. Enko cheered as they passed the massive wooden gates of Konoha. You four can head home and do what you want. Enko and I will make the report and deliver your pay to you later. Shino nodded and vanished in a bug shushin. That is cool but gross. Nar muttered. Hinata took his arm and led him towards Ikyaku's. Well, see you later, sensei. Ino called over her shoulder. Aren't they going to let her folks know they're back? Enko asked. Kurenai laughed. Doubt it. Come on. You can tell the Hokage your report and I'll write ours up. Enko smirked. You spoil me, Enchin, she said. Both left the merchants with a leaf shushin. From a rooftop, a pair of red eyes followed the blonde. Soon, Caillou, your power will be mine. A deep laughter filled the air as the cloaked figure became distorted and vanished. Naruto blinked as Inoichi Yamanaka stood across from him, the doorway of his home separating them. Mr. Yamanaka, may I speak with you? The male Yamanaka asked. Okay, here comes the stay away from my daughter speech. Nar thought truthfully he'd expected it long before now. Stepping aside, he allowed Ino's father to enter his home. With a whistle, Inoichi looked around the foyer. Big place you've got here, my father's. I would have been happy with a small apartment, but Oji-san felt it best I claim my heritage while I was here. Eneki looked at him about that. Sir, I like Ino a lot. Inanoi held up a hand. Let me speak, he said to the blonde. Nar led him to the living room. Can I get you something to drink? Nar asked. No, thank you. Eneki took a seat. Nar across from him. My daughter is crazy about you, as is Hinata. Eneki had the former Hyuga heir living under his roof. He was at times thankful the girls didn't know about the vents carrying everything to the rest of the house. He learned a lot over the last couple months. I know, Naruto said, looking down. And I did try to talk them out of it, but Inoichi laughed. Yes, Ino gets that from her mother. Frankly, I prefer her chasing you than that spoiled bratichi. Nar looked at the elder Yamanaka. Sir, what is happening with him? Eneki noted the change of topic, but allowed it for the moment. He's on a special team given to him by the council. Many of us think he shouldn't be allowed to flaunt the laws like that. But he shrugged. They kiss his because of his name. Nar finished. What are your plans? Naranoi asked. Nar shrugged. Papa Labao promised Oji-san. So far the village hasn't made me welcome. I'll see what happens after the Chunin exams before I decide really. And do Ino and Hinata fit in there anywhere? Eneki asked. I'd like to think so, but I won't make plans for them. I won't make assumptions. Eneki studied the young man who held his daughter's heart. Say she goes with you to the world above. What then? Eneki looked at him. I'm not sure what you're asking, sir. Nar said, and he watched the blonde pull out a deck of cards and flip through them. I want to know if my daughter goes with you, will she be cut off from Konoha? Will she be provided for? Sir, if and only if Ino wishes to go with me, then I'd ask her. And there are ways to keep in contact. He pulled out a cell phone. I use this to speak with my mother and father. If, and it's a big if that Enoch-chan would ever consider leaving Konoha, I would make sure she could be in contact with her family. Why don't you believe Ino and Hinata don't mean their feelings? Eneki asked, changing the subject. Naruto shrugged. I'm not that lucky. I am a mutant. I'm used to getting the short end of the straw as it were. I know I may phase she and Hinata will realize I'm dangerous to be around and then they will move on. What makes you say this, Naruto? Eneki asked. I had a girlfriend before I came back. The minute she found out being with me in public meant she dropped me. Most of Konoha doesn't understand what I am, but they remember me as being the container for the Kyobi. They'll never accept me cause of that. And in the world above, I'm not accepted because of abilities I have. You had a girlfriend. Ino never mentioned. Eniki said, I never told her. We broke up long before I came here and she hated what I was. So I prefer not to think about what went before. Eniki sighed. And since you're expecting to be hurt, you're not hoping for the best. He looked at the young man before him. Ino does love you, Nar. She lights up like the sun when talking about you. Hinata after spending time with you floats on air. They both love you and they don't care about whatever abilities you have or are hiding. They care about you. Eniki heard the girls talking about their plans and right now he was rooting for them to succeed. This young man was isolating himself due to the stupidity of the villagers. Nar was about to reply when there was a knock at the door. Nar went and answered. Kurenai-sensei, sorry to bother you at home, Nar, we have a mission. A team hasn't reported back from their mission, and we're the only team available to send. What team? Nar asked, motioning for her to come in. Team 7, the Uchiha's team. Nar finished getting his gear. Kurana had left to get Shino and Enonoi had gone to tell his daughter and Hinata. Naruto on a whim slipped on his body armor and looking at the painting of his family, he went to the weapons locker and pulled out the wrist blades like Wolverine's and strapped them to his forearms. He also packed a scroll with an arsenal of kanai shuriken and card shuriken along with nearly 100 spare packs of cards. He slipped that into a side pocket of his cargo pants that covered his body armor. He pulled on a baggy shirt and put on his jacket. After adding his weapons belt and pocketing the communicator, he also grabbed another scroll and slid that into his jacket's inner pocket. He was just reaching for the door when it was knocked on. He opened Inko-sensei. Good. You're ready. We've got to go. The old man's sending us to Wave now, and he'll send another team as soon as they get back, but we need to go now. Nar snorted. I take the council doesn't care about the others. We're going because this is the Uchiha. Enko nodded. Manipulating bastards. Kurana has the file on the team and what their mission was. We're going to support them or if we can't, we are to extract the Uchiha and write off the others as collateral damage. What? Don't give me that look. I don't like it either, and neither did the Hokage. He's told us to see if we can get them all out. Nar nodded. That's more like the old man. The Uchiha is more trouble than he's worth. Both turned to see Shino keeping pace with them. Got that right, Nar said. The only reason he's a ninja is because the council kisses his. Enko muttered after his display in the academy, he should not have been allowed. Shino agreed. There are too many civilians on the council, and they praise him religiously. Shino said, my father and the other clan leaders were against his being given such attention. And Gaki's spanking of him didn't make them waver either. Enko said and Naruto grinned. He needed it. The Uchiha probably enjoyed it. Shino said and Naruto froze. Whoa, you joked. Shino left again and Naruto was forced to do the same. So, we're considered expendable as long as we bring back the precious Uchiha. There they are, Enko said. And they saw Ino and Hinata ahead with Kurana. Keep moving. I'll brief you on the way. Their sensei said as the three women joined them. Kurana didn't speak again until a mile out of the gate. The council has ordered we retrieve the Uchiha at all costs. The Hokage, however, has amended the mission parameters. We are to aid Team 7 and if things look bad to get them all out. What happened to their mission sensei? Hinata asked. It was ranked as AC rank mission. However, the client lied and it was bumped up to an A- rank. At this point, it is uncertain, but for reasons unknown, Team 7's John and Sensei decided to continue the mission and continued on, send word back about encountering the Demon Brothers. Anu weren't able to find the bodies when they got to the site of the battle, meaning that the Demon Brothers weren't as defeated as Team 7 thought. Or they had help. Nar said, what was that? Kurana asked. Just a thought. Some of the baddies my family has faced in the past, if you saw one, there was someone else in the shadows. What are the Demon Brothers ranked at? Chunin Enko said. So someone above them could have come, claimed them, and went back after Team 7. Nar said as he continued to leap from tree to tree. Were there any other details? Ino asked. They discovered that Wave is in the clutches of Wangato, a businessman tyrant. Figure a lot of hired muscle then. Nar said as he looked over his shoulder. Sensei. Well scout it out and make a decision then. Kurenai said, what of Team 7? Shino asked. As we know they have Sasuke, Uchiha. The council in their wisdom gave them 2 gen from previous teams. Kabuto, Yakushi, and Sai and their sensei. I don't know the Jonin and the person's name isn't listed, only the code name of random. Nar stopped and looked at his sensei. Did you say random? Yeah. Why? Kurana asked. Do you have a picture ID of him? Nar asked, his thoughts buzzing. Kurenai dug out a scroll and passed it to Nar, noting his reactions as he unrolled it and winced. Damn, he muttered. What is it? Kurenai asked, signaling the others to stop. Random isn't from Konoha. He's a mutant. He's a mutant for hire. If he's here, then it means, he looked at the photo ID in the scroll. He was younger looking, but he wore his mirrored shades, bandana, and vest. His skin was still the ash and gray Naruto remembered. How dangerous is he? Karini asked. Very, Nar muttered. He can take on a team of X-Men and walk away. Nar thought as he looked at the photo. But the question is, why is Random here? Is he following me or does he have a different mission? Apocalypse, Mr. Sinister, Magneto, could be anyone from the X-Men's Rogues Gallery. Handed the scroll back to Kurana and they were in motion again. Well, wait and see what the situation is. Kurana said, for now we'll treat Random as a Konohan. Nar, keep an eye on him. Nar nodded, not liking the situation. I'll contact Papa and the others ASAP when we make camp. This can't be good that Random is down here. Nar thought. He continued to leap, not seeing the worried look from Ino. After setting up camp for the night, Naruto slipped away and pulled out his communicator. Solitaire to war room. Solitaire to war room. Come on, someone pick up. Solitaire, a voice said, confused. It's not your check-in time. Your mom and dad aren't here right now. It's okay, Beast. We have a situation, and I need advice, Nar said, looking around. What's wrong, my blonde-haired friend? Hank McCoy's voice came back concerned. I just learned Random is here. Oh dear, Beast answered. That can't be good. Number duh. Naruto muttered. Last time Bishop, Wolverine, Havoc, and Polaris had a tumble with him, it wiped out several blocks in Manhattan. I kind of worried what kind of damage we would do around here. Do not engage him alone. Nar, Beast said. Well, that's the kicker. He's John and Sensei to a team on our way to rescue, which leads me to believe that it's a trap, as Random wouldn't play weak like this unless he was being paid to. That is correct. I'll inform the others. Leave a tracer open and we'll be there faster than you can say Mama McCoy's bouncing baby boy. Hank said. Nar laughed. Thanks, Beast. I know when I'm over my head, and Random lives up to his name. I'm more worried that he's here for one of the larger fish in the X-Men's pond of enemies. Only a pond. We must be doing well. Beast joked. I'd like to think so. Nar muttered. Thanks. And tell Papa. I'm sure the minute he and Rogue hear of Random, they'll be in the first group to go. Thanks, Beast. Take it easy, Nar. We'll be there soon. Nar disconnected the communicator. He wondered who would be coming. And then he winced, thinking his mom and dad meeting Ino and Hinata. No, my life doesn't get complicated, he muttered, heading back to camp after activating the homing beacon on his communicator. It's too quiet, Naruto muttered, looking out across the mist-enshrouded water. You know something, Shino muttered. No, but the mist is unnatural. It's too thick and isolated. They finally found a boat. Naruto noticed Shino's reluctance. You okay, man? I am not fond of large bodies of water outside my control. The heir to the Ibarame clan admitted. Nar paused, then mentally slapped himself. Duh, dummy. Shino's a living hive. Of course, he wouldn't be fond of water. His clan probably is a special means to protect themselves at home. Do you have a wetsuit or something you can change into? He asked. Not with me. Perhaps I should add one to my gear from now on. Shino admitted. Naruto had forced Shino to speak more with the promise of having Ino showing up at his home and talking his ear off about fashion every night. That had gotten a grunt and a loud buzzing from the silent boy. Since then, Shino spoke more. Well, put you in the center then, Naruto said. He looked over to see Anko and Kurenai pushing the craft into the water and went to talk with them and informed them of a minor flaw. Kurana mentally slapped herself for that. None of us thought about it. Sadly, there is no other way across right now. Once the team was on the boat and Shino with a death grip on the side, they used the small motor to move across the expanse of water to the other side. Ino sitting behind Shino had a grin. Hey Hinata, ever play Rock the Boat? A loud buzz came from in front of her and Hinata next to her shook her head. Behave or we can tell Shino your fear. The indigo-haired girl said softly. Spoil sport. Nar in front of Shino shook his head. Remember Enoch-chan. They say paybacks are _, and Shino has a lot of creepy crawlies at his command. Nar sighed. He didn't get a chance to look into Ino's power yet, and it made his toughen his mental shields. I think she's a plant psi. I'm not 100% sure, but when she heard part of my thoughts, she was touching a vine. He remembered that right before she kissed him, and his mind was focused on other things. Gee. Logan will slice me into a million ribbons for not keeping my mind on the mission. But damn, she can kiss, and so can Hinata-chan. Shaking himself mentally, he saw they were closing on the opposite shore. Cut the motor, Kurana did, and Naruto formed the familiar cross seal. Cage Bunchan, he muttered as 6 shadow clones appeared. Okay, boys, into the water and push. Keep the splashing to a minimum. The shadow clones slipped into the water with small splashes. They each took hold of the side of the boat and started kicking and pushing. Nar saw Enko's look. What? There weren't any paddles and it was the best way. Not that gacky, but if your blonde little thing and the princess weren't all over you like a rash, I might consider going for something young and blonde. Nar smirked and leaned forward and whispered, yeah, but then Karana-sensei would get jealous and I'd hate to see what she would do. Enko smirked and leaned in. Who said she couldn't play? Nar jerked back and glared at Enko. What's the matter, Gaki? Too much for you. Yes, Nar said and Enko laughed, covering her mouth with her hand to muffle it. From the back of the boat, Karana was giving the two of them a dirty look that said, keep quiet or else. Of course, their answering grins were, babies must play. Hinata and Ino gave Enko a look, and she winked to the pair. In the water, a clone muttered, someone on the boat needed a diet. And was stabbed in the head by Enko. Naruto shook his head and sighed. You destroy another one and you can take its place in the water. So, you going to tell me about your power yet, Gaki? Nope. You worried about this random guy? Enko continued. Yes, and you should be too. Why? What makes his so dangerous? Enko asked. His body is composed of a form of protoplasm which he can reconstruct at will to change his size and shape. He can alter it to counteract any mutant force within a certain perimeter that is directed at him. He can also shoot biomatter projectiles. He played havoc with several members of my extended family, which is true. He made X-Factor's life hell on more than one occasion, and he's made the X-Men's life hell as well several times, Nar thought. But why is he dangerous to us? Enko asked. Well, the fact he can make his arms into cannons and send biomatter blasts at you is one reason. He can shape his body to become easier to defend against attack. And if Random is here, who else is? Nar thought as they reached the bank. He hoped out and stood to his knees in the water, helping to steady the boat with his clones while the others leapt to the bank. Nar and his clones dragged the boat to the shore and hid it amongst the weeds on the bank. Team 7 should be at the village. Well, try there first and see what's happening. Karini said. Nar and Enko will take a second route and keep watch from a distance. No reason to put us all in a trap. Enko nodded. Nar turned to follow her when Ino grabbed him and pulled him into a kiss. She stepped back and smirked for luck. Hinata grabbed him. Double, she said with a smirk and blushed. Naruto smiled at the fact that she could still blush like she did, and he mentally slapped himself from wondering if it was a full-body blush. Be careful, he said. Stick close to one another and Shino. We will. And remind Enko to keep her hands to herself. Ino said as she and Hinata followed Karana and Shino. Naruto leapt to a tree. Ah, can I have a kiss for luck? Enko asked in a pouting voice. Should have asked Karana-sensei. Enko smiled. She told me you were in the know. Not hard to. You both came back from breaks looking me up. And one night while I was wandering Konoha, I passed your apartment. You really should close the windows at night if you're going to play those kind of games. What games? Enko asked. She wanted to see what the kid knew. Naughty school girl. I think it was. I never knew you looked that good in a Japanese schoolgirl outfit. Enko-sensei. Or that Karana-sensei liked the riding crop. Nar leapt away while Enko gasped. That was one time, she yelled, leaping after the blonde, who laughed. Thank you, teacher. May I have another? Nar yelled over his shoulder with a laugh. In the distance, Kurenai paused and wondered what the yelling was about. Moments later, they heard a yell. Not the balls. Not the balls. Birds scattered and Ino and Hinata shivered. Whatever that was, someone will need ice. An hour later, Naruto was sitting on a branch above Enko, glaring at the fishnet, wearing Jonin while wincing anytime he shifted. I may have a healing factor, Enko-sensei. But was that really necessary? Yes, don't ever repeat what you saw to anyone, she said, using binoculars to watch Karana and her team wandering around the village. What a dump. If it was a choice between living in hell or this place, I'd live in hell and rent this village out, she muttered, seeing how shabby it looked. It is ruled by a tyrant. Nar said tyrants only can take charge of places like this cause no one does anything. The people are sheep. They bleed and whine and wait for someone else to do the hard work. Then when it happens, they celebrate like they won a great war all by themselves. Nar nodded. Janosha was like that until Magneto took over. He thought and winced as he shifted to get a more comfortable spot. He was about to ask Enko how things were when his communicator beeped. Enko looked up as he opened it. Solitaire here, he said. We're 2 minutes out. Any problems yet? Came the voice of Beast. Negative. We've split our team with half checking out the village. So far, no contact with Random, nor with the threat to the village. Nar said, so for now, Random is considered an ally. Beast asked, so far, yeah, but I don't trust him. Nar paused. Who's with you? Myself, Nightcrawler, Scarlet Witch, Juggernaut, Shadowcat, X-23, and Marrow. Beast answered, how do you get out of the Institute without Mama, Papa, Logan, Aunt Jean, or Bishop? Nar asked, curious. Beast's laughter came over the communicator, and Anko looked up, wondering what was being said. Actually, it was Laura's idea. We left a message with Talia, who was on monitor duty. She will tell the others when they get back. Sneaky beast. Is everyone up on their Japanese? Nar asked. Of course, and even if they weren't, the translator micro BS from the sheer cover that my young friend. Stand by. We're nearly there. Nar smiled and switched back to Japanese. See you in a few then. He clicked the communicator off and looked at Anko. What was that, Gaki? She asked. Some of my family is coming. I told them Random was here and they don't think he's up to anything good either, so they're coming to help out. How many of your family is coming? Anko asked. 7 more would have come. I'm sure, but they were away and my uncle didn't think it was good to wait. He looked at Anko and paused. And they may look a little weird, but don't attack them. What do you mean by weird? Nar heard the engines and felt the air shift as the X-jet came in and landed in the nearby clearing. Cam's panties. What the hell is that? That is the X-jet, otherwise known as a Blackbird stealth craft. Naruto said, hopping from the branch to the ground. Anko turned to see the teammate running towards them from the village. She didn't need the binoculars to see the concern in Inos and Hinata's eyes. She turned back to see a pair of figures tackle Nar. One had tan skin, wore green, and had red hair. She noticed the bones sticking out a bit. The other figure wore black leather pants, a halter top and jacket, and had short cropped black hair. Nar didn't seem concerned by the attack. In fact, he was laughing. Anko watched as more figures left the strange craft. One had a man of red hair, wore red clothes over black armor she'd seen Naruto wear. Next to her was a girl with long brown hair, wearing black pants that looked like the armor Naruto wore, and a crop zip vest of the same material. She was laughing at the trio on the ground. Next came a man that Ino thought was gigantic. Whoa, he's what, 9 feet? She thought, taking in the man's features. He had short cropped brown hair and was grinning. He held a bull-like helmet under his arm as he watched the 2 girls that had tackled Naruto start to rough house with the blonde boy. Anko froze, seeing 2 blue fur-covered figures descend the ramp. One was slender, had 3 fingers and toes, a prehensile tail, and wore black outfit like Naruto, and carried a pair of swords on his back. His yellow eyes were best Anko could describe alive with mischief. The other blue fur-covered figure was bulky, and Anko felt if he stood up straight, he'd be well over 6 foot. He made her think of one of Sir B's ape summons. Ino and the others reached them, and Ino and Hinata scowled, seeing the 2 girls atop of Naruto. What's going on? Kurenai asked. Naruto's family came to help. Seems he told them about Random being here. Family? Kurenai asked. She took it all in. Ino and Hinata shared a look. They'd seen them all in the pictures Naruto showed them. Meeting them in real life was different. What are they doing on top of my boyfriend? Ino yelled the last part. Hinata agreed a bit quieter, but she'd activated her Bakugan eyes and was staring at the girl with the bones sticking out. Naruto, hearing boyfriend, looked back and saw the others. He smiled and said something to the girls and they reluctantly got off of him. He performed a kick up and was on his feet. He motioned his team over. Hey, he scratched the back of his neck a moment. Kurana-sensei, this is some of my family. They've come to help. For now, Random is a Konohanan, she said. One of the X-men snorted and Nar shot Kitty a look. True, but Random has been an undercover agent before and his being here does not bode well. Introductions, I believe, are in order. My boy, Beast said, and he surprised the Konoha group with his flawless Japanese. Right. Well, the woman with red eyes is one of my John and sensei, Kurana Yuhi. Next to her in the fishnet and smirking like crazy is our other sensei, Anko Midarashi. The one with sunglasses and coat is Shino Arame. The beautiful blonde in purple is my girlfriend Ino Yamanaka, and next to her with the veins around her eyes, meaning her Byakugan is activated, is my other girlfriend Hinata. Hi. Just Hinata, I am downed. Remember Narutkin? She said and deactivated her eyes, letting them go back to the pale near white they usually were. Right, Nar said and noticed the glares from Maro and X-23 at the word girlfriend. I am so going to get it later. I just know it, he thought. Moving on, the striking red head next to the fuzzy blue elf is the Scarlet Witch. The fuzzy blue elf is Nightcrawler. Nar used their code names and he gave the X-Men looks and they understood. Information is power and we don't know who is around. Kurt gave a bow and a grin with a wink. The walking man mountain is the Juggernaut. Love you too, kid. The big man grinned. The other hairball is Beast for obvious reasons, but behind that fearsome exterior is the mind of a genius. Stop it, Nar. You'll make me blush. Beast said. Better than shedding. Nar muttered, having gotten into a shower after Beast and had to spend an hour cleaning it out before he could take his own. The hot brunette is Shadow Cat. Nar gave her a wink and she laughed. You're as bad as your father. I try, Cher. I try, Nar said. He looked at the last two. The short stuff here is X23 and she's good at what she does. And what is that? Enko asked. SNIKT X23 held up a hand with two blades sticking out. I make things dead, X23 said with a grin that reminded Nar of Logan in so many ways. And the violent redhead in green is Morrow. Don't piss her off, he cautioned. Morrow looked at him and grinned. Ah, you spoil all my fun. I'm sure you can make it up to me in a very enjoyable fashion later, she said, running a gloved hand over his chest, and he mentally winced, seeing the fire burning in Ino and Hinata's eyes, only to turn and see it in Marrow's and X23's, as well as the four girls had a stare down. Crap. Maybe I should have just fought random on my own. Team 8 with the X-Men finally learned where Team 7 was located, and they went to the home of the bridge builder and his family. Naruto's gut clenched. I've got a very bad feeling about this. He thought as Kurana rapped on the door. It opened slowly and they saw the door open to reveal a surprised gray face of random X-Men. He said as his left arm morphed into a triaral cannon and he sent a blast of biomatter at them. Nar managed to bamf Kurnai out of the line of fire as the X-Men grabbed teammate and scattered as well. Scarlet Witch hit the biomatter blast with a hexbolt and sent it flying into the night sky and exploded in a harmless display of fireworks. Morrow pulled a pair of ribs shaped like curved blades while X23 leapt into the air, her hand and foot claws exposed. Beast with Anko under her arm was doing flips and leaps as Random seemed determined to blast him into oblivion. Nightcrawler with a BMF had grabbed Ino and Hinata before depositing them away and vanishing again. Scarlet Witch was hexing the blasts and sending them airborne away from their targets. That's it. Coming through. Juggernaut roared, slamming on his helmet, and his earth-shaking footsteps took him straight into Random, leaving a large hole in the wall and back out the far side of the building. Nar cursed and bamfed into the air and landed on the roof. Random had distended his body and was getting behind Kane and was going to blast him when Juggernaut slipped into the ground. Naruto froze then saw Kitty bring him up several feet away. Thank Kami, he thought as he pulled several cards and sent them at random with low-level charges. He dodged and sent a blast at Nar. By this time, Team 7 with Sasaki Uchiha came out and seeing their sensei under attack went after the X-Men. Nar got pissed when Uchiha with a kadenjutsu nearly hit Ino while he was trying for Kurt. That's it. In the words of my poker buddy, it's clobbering time. Naruto vanished with a B of his own, appeared behind the Uchiha, and rammed his fist into the bastard's pressure point on his neck. Sasaki dropped like a marionette with its strings cut. Shino, meanwhile, had taken down side, draining his chakra, and Kabuto was on his belly. Morrow holding a pair of bone blades to his neck and swearing if he moved she'd gut him from lip to balls. Nar turned to see Random with a drop toe old sent Juggernaut crashing into X23. This is getting out of hand, he thought. Then he remembered what Uncle Alex did inside. He walked up to the battle. Random spun about and put the triaral arm cannon in his face. Come on, kid. You know better than that. Your dad will tan your hide for doing something this stupid. Everyone froze seeing the weapon powered up. Nar sighed. Come on, Labao. Do it. Pull the card. Shaking his head. Naruto leaned around enough so that Random could see his eyes. Man Amy, you've yet to change. Non, what do you mean by that brat? And stop sounding like the frog. He's not here to save your misunderstand me. Man Amy, I don't need to hide behind my papa. His hand came out of his jacket and held up a checkbook. How much? Everyone blinked. Random lowered his arm and looked at the blonde before him. Your underscore, me, kid. Nar snorted. Non. I am offering you money cash or check. Random's arm went down. You don't have that kind of money, kid. Nar laughed. Okonter man Amy I. Thanks to Papa and a certain millionaire learned how to invest. Random's arm shifted back to normal. You going to pay me not to fight? Not to fight as well as information. Yes. Check. Random said. Nar filled out an amount and ripped it from the book then handed it to the mercenary who looking at it whistled. That's a lot of zeros, kiddo. That blonde dweeb on X Factor didn't even have that much clout. Nar shrugged. Havoc is banked by the government. I am privately funded. Several snorts were heard from around the field. Nar ignored them. Have we an accord? Random looked at the check in his hand then at the 16-year-old before him. This won't bounce. Not an inch. Random saw that his team was down. He shook his head. We have an accord, kid. Kurana was coming up now. Of all the stupid idiotic things to do, you didn't even verify before you attacked. And what's worse is you put the client in danger with your reckless behavior. Not to mention your sheer stupidity on taking Genin on a mission they were no way prepared for. Random spit to the side, ignoring the X-Men around him now as he'd been paid. Your opinion matters how to meet Chicky. I answer to the council, not you and not that flatskin in the office. Nar cleared his throat. Fine, let's get this out of the way. I think the old flatskin here has a couple bottles of that piss water they call booze. The kitchen was packed. Sasaki and his team were outside performing tree climbing exercises. Teammate and X-Men were sitting around or standing around the kitchen. Naruto had created several cage bunchon which were repairing the damage done to the house. So what happened after the demon brothers? They were gone when Hunter Nin and Andu arrived to pick them up. Kurenai asked. She didn't like this man Random. He was arrogant and he showed disrespect to everyone here except Naruto, who Random considered his client. She'd gotten a glance at the check. She didn't know there were that many zeros. Well, we dragged the old fart here over the water in a boat, got to the shore, and we got attacked by some flatskin named Zabuza. He tore through us like tissue until I scared him off with a bioblast. Caught him good. Some masked brat showed up. Claimed to be a hunter and took off with the body. Random took a deep drink of the bottle of booze he'd taken from the old man they'd learned was named Suna. We've run into mercenaries, but the kids can't seem to hold their own. I take that back. Sai and Kabuto do fine. It's that duck-ass brat that's useless. Nar shared a look with Shino. Enko snorted. Uchiha should never have been made a ninja. He's not got the mentality for it. Underscore, I knew that hotness. Little, underscore, won't do anything unless it deals with getting power. I just hand him scrolls the council gives me and let him tucker himself out. Are you here to help? Tsunami asked Team 8 and the X-Men. Random snorted. Bet you were sent to get the little, underscore, sucker bet. The Genin of Team 8 muttered. The Hokage amended the mission. We're to get you and your team out of here after looking over the mission. She looked at the X-Men. If Naruto's family is willing, well stay and complete the mission. You and your team can return to Konoha. Random looked at the X-Men. You're going to let me walk. Beast spoke up. For now, we know you'll betray Konoha. Well leave a team here to make sure you behave. That and Labao paid me a fortune to behave for now. Nar smirked. Ever want steady employment? Nah. You ex-geeks just don't give me a chubby fishnet honey here might tempt me. The canny buried between his fingers on the table stopped him. He looked at Anko and Karana. I'll take my team back. They aren't ready for this. Why we even got missions out of Konoha? I don't understand. I told the council there's no teamwork and the Uchiha is a hot dog. Sadly, they see that as a good thing for him. Enko said. Random stood. I'll get my team. He walked out. You're just letting him go? Tsunami asked. Naruto looked at Shino. Don't worry, he's bugged, Nar said. And Team 7 got it right away, Ino smirking. Well, I think we can arrange rooms here, Tsunami said, rising. No, we're fine, Kurenai said. Beast nodded as well. Tsunami had screamed seeing him, Nightcrawler, and Maro. She apologized after she got used to them, but she was still nervous. "'Tis fine. We have gear on our transport. Camping," Nightcrawler said in his wife's side. "So childish at times," she muttered and saw the same grin on Naruto's face. "No teleporting into the tents this time, boys." Kurt and Naruto shared a look. "Who me?" Team 7 left under the cover of darkness. Sasaki Uchiha raising a stink at why the Dobi got to stay. Random knocked him out because he's leagues ahead of you in skill and ability. Underscore, not to mention, he could buy you with his pocket change without trying. Naruto looked at the tents that were camouflaged around Tuna's home. His clones had repaired the walls with minimum effort, and they covered the patches in the roof with tarps until they could find shingles to do the roof. He smiled as he snuggled under his blanket. His eyes were just drifting shut when the flap of his tent was opened, and both Ino and Hinata crawled in. Heinz, he said. Ino kissed him and slipped under his blanket. Nar realized she was wearing just a sleep shirt and panties. Hinata kissed him then also slipped under his blankets. She was wearing pajamas but still both girls in his tent under his blanket. Thank Kami and every celestial deity Logan isn't here. He thought then cursed as the tent flap was ripped back showing an irked-looking X-23 and an armed Marrow. I take it back. Celestial beings suck drops and perv after boys with messy black hair and glasses and do things for the greater good. Nar hissed as X-23 grabbed Ino by the ankle and dragged her from the tent and Maro did the same to Hinata, getting a yelp from both female genin and a groan from Naruto who just knew he was going to get blamed for his somehow. Tossing aside his blanket, he slipped on his bandolier with Dex and his thigh holster before leaving the safety of his tent. Naruto, what's going on? Kurenai asked coming up. They heard the fight off to the bushes. Can I plead ignorance and go back to sleep? He asked annoyed that the four girl were doing damage to the surrounding woods. He heard Maro's curse. Guess Hinata hit a Juken strike. Ino's pissed off. That was my hair, you underscore, had Naruto looking at his sensei. Keep the others here. I'll try and stop this. He bamped away as the others left their tents. Beast sighed, hearing the yells. Oh dear. Juggernaut was laughing as he headed back to his large tent. Kid is braver or has balls of steel putting himself in the middle of a chick fight. The women present shot the unstoppable Juggernaut a look which he ignored. Nightcrawler shook his head. Bell Beast bot should we do? Several explosions were heard in Naruto's that is enough. Signaled the end to the battle. Beast looked at his fellow blue-furred companion. I think it's best to retire. Naruto seems to have it in hand. Wanda tapped her foot and Kitty shared a look with her. Cowards. Both muttered. Yeah. Both Beast and Nightcrawler said, retreating. Both had seen one too many female arguments and the poor men that got in the way. Enko was looking off to where the sounds of battle had ceased and pouted. Ah, come on. I'll put 20 on Hinata. Kurana sighed and looked at Tuzuna and his family had come out. Sorry about that. A minor disagreement. She looked back to where the sound of battle had been and was wondering what happened. She saw Shino slip back to his tent inside. Wonder what is going on. She thought as it got very quiet. Is it over? Enko asked with a pout. Sounds that way, Karini said. Kitty huffed. At least this time he didn't have to blow up half the mansion, she said as she phased into her tent. Karini looked at Wanda, the last X-Men out there. What did she mean by that? Wanda smiled. Naruto was hit by pheromones from another mutant. His former host mutated them and caused all the unattached women and girls around him to wish to mate with him. Enko's eyes widened and how many were chasing the Gaki? Nearly 20 in all. She jerked her head. Both X-23 and Maro however had feelings for Naruto before that. Kitty came close several times to catching him. Karini looked at the tent where Shadowcat had gone. Is he still affected by them? She asked, concerned for the safety of Konoha. Wanda shook her head. No, now it's just his natural charm and what he's learned from that swamp rat called a father. Karini felt Enko's hand on her shoulder and winced as her friend and partner asked. So the kids bagged older women. Enko Karini hissed. Wanda laughed. The one that chased him that freaked him out the most was his cousin, my daughter. Let me tell you, Nar used every skill and ability he had to keep a step ahead of everyone. Any catch him? Enko asked. She was a secret gossip collector and she liked the blonde. Wanda smiled. Between those at the institute, friends, and even enemies, Naruto managed to outfox them all. She smiled. I still remember him teleporting into the office and screaming at Beast and the professor to help him. She smiled even more. And his Aunt Jean being single got a good whiff of pheromones and took up the chase as well. Wanda laughed remembering as Jean used her telekinesis to knock the others away and Naruto thinking he was safe sink into her arms. If his adoptive mother hadn't used her ability, Jean might have caught him. The Scarlet Witch remembered Jean's face the following morning after everyone had been given the antidote. A very pissed off rogue with her glove off, telling them all off and letting them all know the next one to try and do that to her baby boy would be in a permanent coma. She fell in love with the little rascal the moment she saw him. That and he was the first able to touch her without being affected. Wanda thought they discovered that using chakra to coat one's skin allowed Rogue to touch. It had taken time as Nar learned, so had Rogue. Nar acquired a lot of get out of trouble cards with that adventure. I don't think there's a woman he knows that wouldn't do anything for him now. She looked at the Jonin. He's in your care, she said suddenly. If anything happens to him, she snapped her fingers and the log near the fire exploded into sawdust. I wouldn't want that to be you. Good night, Wanda said as she spun about and went back to her tent to pick on her husband about running away from a girl fight. What just happened? Enko asked. Karini looked back to where the sound of raised voices could be heard. Guardianship, she muttered. What? We just temporarily adopted the blonde. Karini said looking at her secret lover. Enko smiled. Sweet. I always wanted a little brother. She said slipping away and Karini felt a chill go up her spine as Enko headed right for where said blonde was with 4 teenage girls. Enko's yell of where the hell did he go? Had her running that way before it was even finished. Maro kicked the girl across the clearing as soon as they cleared the camp. Listen here, skank. I don't know what game you're playing, but you ain't touching my man again. Hinata rolled and flipped to her feet, taking up a Juken stance. Across the way Ino and X-23 were fighting. The blonde was mostly dodging as the living weapon was punching and kicking, thankfully without the claws. That was until Ino with a flip kick knocked her back on her butt. X-23 with a snarl did a kick up to her feet and snicked was heard as she barred her claws. Ino's eyes widened seeing the twin blades coming out of the girl's hands. She drew a kunai and ducked and weaved. She saw a lunge and flipped over X-23. She landed facing Hinata who hit Maro with a series of Juken strikes. Quote exclamation mark. The bone-covered girl yelled. Ino smiled seeing her friend get the better of the bone user. She felt a tug on her hair and tried to spin. She avoided the claw strike, but her hair felt different. She turned, seeing X-23 holding her hunk of her ponytail. Her hand shot to her now shoulder-length hair. That was my hair, you underscore, X-23 snorted and sent a sidekick towards Ino's gut. The now pissed-off blonde caught it and spun her around and sent a series of punches at the claw-wielding girl. The four combatants were close and all four were taken by surprise when explosions went off around them. The two X-men recognized the attacks as did the two kunoichi. They looked up towards a tree branch to see a pissed-off-looking Naruto holding several cards in each hand. All the cards were charged and glowing a reddish hue. What in the name of Kami are you four doing? He asked. Before they could answer, he went on. You know what? I don't care. Know this. If any of you attack the other again outside of a training session, I will not speak to any of you again. What? And no, filled the air. Get back to camp and sleep. I am disappointed in all of you, Nar said. He hopped off the tree and walked away. Narutkin. Where are you going? Hinata asked. He didn't turn around. I'm going for a walk. He kept walking. X-23 moved as if to follow when he ported away. Enko crashed through the bushes at that moment. Where the hell did he go? Four teenage girls looked sheepish as the mesh-wearing Jonin began ripping into them about their behavior. Kur and I reached them as Enko got to stupid BTS. Fighting over a man, any man, and on a mission no less. I should kick your asses and hang you by the hole you were thinking with. Where's Nar? Kurana asked, breaking into her lover's rant. He did that bam thingy. Enko said. Kur and I looked at the four girls. She looked at the X-men for a moment. I believe that Mr. McCoy and Wanda are waiting for you too. She said they both hung their heads as they walked back to camp. Her and I's red eyes looked at her too. Jenin. I am so disappointed in the two of you. She said they started it. Ino said they burst into enough. Kur and I said the fact is you both fought with allies while on a mission over a boy, a special boy granted. But do you know what this mean? If we were in a fight and the four of you pulled this Kur and I side, I don't want to do this, but you've given me no choice. Until this mission is over, the two of you are to stay away from Naruto unless it pertains to the mission. Protests were ignored. I am sure Beast is dealing with the other two young ladies and tomorrow you will be with Enko performing your punishment. Punishment. Ino said while Hinata palled. Yes, punishment. Since you both have so much extra energy to start a brawl, Enko is going to up your training. Both girls looked down and Kurenai felt bad, but fighting allies while on a mission was a big no-no, no matter who started it. Now, did Naro say where he was going? He said Hi was going for a walk. Hinata said. Kurenai sighed. Enko, take these two back to their tent. And I mean theirs, not Naruto's. I'm going to find him. As Kurana leapt away, she missed Ino's question to Hinata. Hinata, you're looking rather pale. You okay? Kurenai found him. She shook her head at his stupidity. Boys got balls the size of the Hokage monument. She thought as she watched him slip from the mansion. She waited till he was several blocks away before stepping out in front of him. Out for a stroll, little thief. Gee. Oh, sensei, don't do that, Nar said, clutching his chest. What do you think you were doing? She asked, ignoring his act. Naruto's demeanor changed. Suna and his family are living tightly. God's got more than enough, and I figure we'll be dealing with him soon enough. So, you helped yourself ahead of time. Kurana said with a lifted eyebrow. I was reappropriating funds for the people of Wave, starting with the old drunk and his family. Nar said that and I helped get supplies to fix the damage we did to his house when Kane and Random tussled. Kur and I sighed as Marco that destructive usually. Nar laughed as they began walking. This is nothing compared to some of his past adventures. Random's blast wouldn't have killed him earlier, but knowing Murphy's law, the blast would have staggered him into something and it would have been expensive. There's not much that can hurt Kane, he can still be tripped up and such. And once he's in motion, well, let's just say a bull in a crystal shop is less destructive. Your family, they are interesting. Kurenai said cautiously. Nar laughed. That's a nice way to say we're all insane. He stopped. Sensei, I'm sorry about Sarah and Laura's actions, which are their own. I already punished Ino and Hinata with extra training time with Enko. Nar sighed. Not really their fault. When those two pick a fight, the opponent usually has two choices. Fight back or end up shaking his head. I swear I don't know what's up with them. Kurana smiled. I could tell you. Shaking his head, Naruto pulled out a scroll. This is the fortune God had squirreled away. He's going to be pissed tomorrow. He held up another scroll. I raided his private shipping yard. I managed to get a lot of lumber and supplies. Kurenai sighed. You just can't keep your hands clear of trouble. Nar gave her a grin. I take after my father. Mama says I need more hobbies. She's right. Both Karana and Nar turned to see Kitty coming out of a building. Scamp, she said with a grin. That is some ability. Karana said about Shadow Cat's phasing. You know how many ninja would sell their soul for that skill. Nar grinned. Yeah, and the funny thing is Kitty's a vegetarian and hates violence. The brunette shrugged. Beast has in effect ground marrow in X23. What does that mean? Karini asked. Nar smirked. For those two, it means sitting in one place having to do book reports for Beast. Kitty joined them as they walked. So, Kit Kat. Nar began ignoring the scowl on the older girl's face. You and the Tin Man make up yet? No. Kitty said, we're separated again, and I think I'm going to stay single for a while. Nar nodded. Sorry, not your fault, Whiskers. Peter and I were good together. But at the same time, she shrugged. I'm not spun glass. She then nudged him with an elbow. So, girlfriends, Nar groaned. We are not talking about this. Oh, but we've got I smell gossip, and if you don't tell me, then I'll tell Tabby, who you know will then speak to your mom. It's just simpler if you give me the information I want, cause, I'll get it in the end. Naruto sighed and looked to the stars. I should have gone to Vegas, he muttered. Kitty's laughter filled the night while Karana wondered where this Vegas was. Breakfast was an affair as Naruto and Kirk took over the kitchen. Being the biggest eaters, they told that they would make breakfast and Kirk brought the coolers from the EX jet. Kitty's offer to help got panicked looks from the gathered X-Men. It was Naruto who suggested she set the extended table as there really wasn't room in the kitchen for more bodies. Nar and Kirk praying that Kitty wouldn't think to use her phasing to help out. During the meal, Kitty teased Nar about creating a harem. Said blonde glared at the brunette. His silent prayer of thanks as Anko had already taken Ino and Hinata out for their morning torment training. Maro and X23 were sleeping and hoping to avoid their own punishments, and Kurenai was leaving with Suna. Kane and Wanda agreed to go with as they figured it would give them something to do. Nar unpacked the supplies he acquired last night from a friendly person as he'd told everyone that didn't know of his idle hands. And by noon, he'd fixed the roof, built an extension, and with his Cage Bunch army was now building a pond and garden for Tsunami as an apology for the previous team's manners and the pitched battle that had happened in her home. Kurt helped him, the teleporter and blonde chattering away. So, Elf, I know you can speak without the accent. What gives? Naruto asked as his clones continued to dig the pond out and more were carrying rocks from the river. Kurt smiled. It makes me more mysterious. Nar snorted. Kurt, what gives about Sarah and Laura? The blonde asked in English. Kurt shrugged. Neither was happy when you left. Maro became withdrawn and hostile again, spending a lot of time in the danger room and the tunnels. Laura was putting Logan to shame, spending time in the danger room or stalking the woods around the institute. But why? Kurt looked at him. Because they both like you and wanted to date you. Without realizing it, Naruto slipped back to Japanese. Oh, for the love of Kurt laughed. Stop picking on him, Fuzzy. Kitty said coming out carrying a pitcher of water and glasses. Looking around, she saw all of the clones. You know, Jamie is still jealous you can make more clones than him and that yours don't pop like his does. Nar shrugged. What can I say? Share. I just that awesome. Non. Kitty sighed. And here we thought we broke you of being a mini Gambit. Non. Nar said with a smirk. She looked at Kurt who was looking away, a grin on his face. And don't think I didn't hear the return of your accent. Fuzzy. Why Wand puts up with you. Nar added his 2 cents because if him and Tabby got together, the institute would have been blown up. And if he'd gotten together with you, we'd find you both having all over the place. Wait a tick. He looked at Kurt. You and Wanda do that already. So, in other words, she's a redhead kitty with a temper. Both Nar and Kurt bamped away as Kitty tried to smack them. It turned into a childish game of tag with a blonde, an elf, and a sprite laughing the whole time. So, brat, how much did you swipe? Enko asked later that afternoon. I don't know what you mean, Naruto said as he was checking over his cards. He'd talked Enko into a game of poker and he currently had half her money next to him. Your little jaunt last night. Oh, that I think I left them a roll of toilet paper. He said. Enko looked shocked and she was lowering her cards enough that Naruto could see them as she tipped them. How in the name of the holy dango did you do that? Sleep jutsus, Cage Bunchon, storage scrolls, and the fact that the missing nin that Goto hired were away healing. Random tagged one of them pretty good from the gossip I listened to. Seeing Enko's cards, he sighed. I fold. Enko had a look on her face. Then she realized he'd seen her cards. Damn it. Reshuffling the deck, she sighed. You going to talk to your girls and say what? I might pretend to know what I'm doing, but I'm as clueless as well any male in this situation. You want my advice? Enko asked. Why not? Can't do worse myself. Nar said across the camp. I felt a shiver go up her spine. Beast, who was working on the landing gear of the EX jet, noticed. Cold? He asked, shaking her head. She sighed. I think Enko's giving someone advice again. I just hope it doesn't involve a bucket of sushi, a gallon of sake, a rubber chicken, and a pair of handcuffs. Beast looked at her. And what did that accomplish? Karana shuddered again. The tunin that took her advice is on his third year of a 10-year sentence. They both froze, hearing the familiar yell of, "You want me to what?" Nar sat at the breakfast table, shivering as he shot Enko several dark looks. It had taken Karana, Wanda, and Beast 3 hours to get him out of a hole he had his clones dig and covered over again as he tried to bury himself to get away from the snake. Jonan, Wanda had the 4 girls out running laps while Kitty and Marco were at the bridge. Nar smiled, thinking of the Juggernaut building things instead of tearing them down. You think God will make his move? If the screaming from his mansion was any clue, he's going to be sending his mercenaries out in force. Nar looked at Beast. You do know that killing will be heavy. The fur-coated X-Man sighed. We are aware. We may not like killing, but we understand it needs to be done. What's that? Enko asked. It was Naruto who answered. The man who brought the X-Men together for humans and mutants to live in peaceful harmony. To that end, he keeps allowing some of the most dangerous enemies to live in the hopes that they one day see his way and stop their evil ways. While some I can understand, Cain isn't a killer per se. Hell, even Random who has killed has done good. But there are some mutants. What my young whisker-marked friend is saying is there are some mutants in our rogues gallery that should be put down. Sinister Apocalypse, Naruto muttered 2 names. There was another, but Beast saw he didn't want to say it. Well, we can do this one of 2 ways. Karana said, sipping her tea. We can guard the bridge into Zuna and his family. Tsunami from the counter speaks up. Why us? Because God is the sort of person to send a few of his mercenaries out to kidnap you and use you as a bargaining chip, then kill or sell you to slavery. Enko said. Nar smiled, seeing his sensei's idea already. Or a group of us go on the offensive and attack God now. Enko perked up. I want that one. Karana sighed. Of course you do. She looked at Beast. Suggestions. Both options would prove to be the wiser course of action. God we know have ninja on his payroll from what Random told us. So with the amount of talent and abilities we have amongst us, we should make use and cover both goals. Nar nodded. Beast is right. I wouldn't put it past God to try and hit Tsunami, and he's unaware of us replacing Team 7. Kurenai and Beast talked about splitting the teams. Beast and Kurenai would defend the house and bridge while Naruto and Enko would lead a strike team to God's mansion. Now, who goes where? Enko was practically bouncing in her seat. That night, they all gathered inside Tuna's house. Enko and Naruto stood at one end of the table while Karina and Beast had the other. Listen up, Karana said, getting everyone silent. We figure that the nin that Random fought should be up and about in a day or so. Tomorrow, we're going to strike. Kurenai and I will be leading the defenses of the bridge and of Suna's house and family. Beast said softly, while Nar and Enko will lead a strike team into God's mansion and take on his forces. Isn't that insane? Ino asked. No. The other night when Nar went for his walkabout, he scoped the layout of God's mansion. Karana was saying but was interrupted. Wait, you mean the money and supplies he brought back were God's own? Suna asked from next to his family. The man looked pale and he took a long drink from the sake jug in his hand. We're dead, he muttered. As I was saying, Nar got the layout and the ideas on where to hit. Kurenai said. Nar stood and made a few gestures. A couple of clones appeared, then transformed into a model of the mansion with the roof missing. You're getting better, Nightcrawler said from his place near his wife and Kitty. Thanks, God has a panic room here. Nar pointed. From what I gathered, he's got on the estate nearly 200 mercenaries and samurai. Hey, sounds like a day at the beach. Kane said from where he was leaning against the wall. It does for an X-Man. Nar agreed with a nod. We discussed the teams. The defense team with Karana and Beast will be Ino, Hinata, Juggernaut, and Scarlet Witch. Enko smirked, while the strike team with Whisker Boy and I will be Shino, Shadowcat, Nightcrawler, Marrow, and X-23. Now hold on, Kane said, standing up straight. How come I'm being left on the bench? I'm designed for an assault. Because I have a feeling that the nin that Random encountered might try something. And who better to face up to someone like that than you? Nar said. The Juggernaut thought about it. So you want me on the bridge? Yep. Nar said. They'll need you against the A-rank missing nin Zabuza. He's a swordsman of the mist. Kurt perked up. Really? The look in his gold eyes making Nar know he was considering asking to switch teams for a chance to have a swords duel. Not your kind, Kurt. Zabuza is known as the demon of the bloody mist. He held up the bingo book he'd borrowed from Anko. He killed the entire class before he even entered the academy at the Hidden Mist. He's a butcher. And you figure I can deal with him, Juggernaut said with a grin. Well, they don't have adamantium here, and I think the first time he meets you, he'll remember your name forever after Into the Afterlife. Juggernaut grinned, a grin the older X-Men knew from their tussles with him. Kitty snorted. Now here's how we're going to do this. Nar said, pointing out the defenses he'd spotted. Morning came. Kurenai putting Juggernaut under an invisibility jutsu while Wanda walked with Ino and Hinata. Beast was staying at the house. He'd admired the traps that Genin set up under the cover of darkness. Nar and Anko's team left before the sun was up. Kurt blending into the darkness of the trees. Morrow and X-23 moving as quietly as skilled assassins with Anko and Nar. Kitty ghosting through everything and Shino keeping pace. His bugs scouting the area, ready to warn them of any danger. Nar and Anko looked at the mansion for a moment. Well, take the back way in. Nar muttered, seeing the increased guards. That's a cliff. Anko said. Nar smiled. Not scared. Are you, sensei? Kurt shook his head. Your father is going to get yelled at. Nar smiled as he looked at his adopted uncle. And that's the beauty of it. Mama will skin him for my bad habits, as they surely were picked up from him. The X-Men chuckled. They'll sense our chakra use for scaling the cliff. Anko said. Nar looked at her. Who said we'd be using chakra? Nar grabbed Anko and Shino while Kurt grabbed Mio and X-23. Kitty mock pouted. Sure, make me ghost in on my own. See you there, Kit Kat. Nar said before they vanished with a BMF chaos. That was the only way to describe the morning. While Nar and his strike team appeared in the courtyard of God's mansion and began their attacks, the bridge was covered in a fog bank. Where's Storm when you need her? Juggernaut muttered to himself. They're here. Looks like Naruto was right. Kurini said, my, you are much prettier than the last group of Konoha ninja I faced. A deep voice said from the mist, all women, I'm almost tempted to capture you alive and use you for my own pleasures. And I noticed the ninja by Zabuza's side. So, the demon brothers were rescued. And that's the hunter nin we were warned about. You know of us, I should be blushing, Zabuza said as he balanced his huge cleaver sword on his shoulder. But this ends now. He made several signs and 6 water clones appeared. Ino Hinata. The two genin wordlessly nodded and went on attack formation they had worked on for weeks. The two of them worked so well together and Kurana capitalized on it. Between Hinata's Jukin attacks and Ino's monowire attacks that Anko had taught her, the pair were very dangerous and the clones were destroyed. Ino smirked as she ran a hand through her shorter hair. Yeah, and I'll show that Claude, too. No one cuts my hair. She looked at Hinata, who smiled at the fact they took out the clones. Impressive students. They did much better than the last batch. Haku, I think I found you some playmates. Be a deer and kill them for me. The masked nin bowed and shimmered away. Kurana found her path blocked by the demon brothers. Both had claws in a chains. Oh, look at this one brother. Those eyes, and look at the curves. Yes, I wonder how long it will take to break her. And I looked at Zabuza, who seemed to be laughing. Be careful with the frail things. God will pay well for them. I'm sure. And I and Wanda shared a look. Well, we don't want you to feel left out. Kurana said to Zabuza. And what are you going to do, Frail? You'll be dancing with the demon brothers. Zabuza was struck and went flying. The demon brothers and Haku froze and their eyes widened, seeing the armored giant appear in their midst. Zabuza-sama. Haku yelled, her voice panicked. The hunter nin vanished from the battle with Ino and Hinata and appeared in front of Juggernaut. I don't know who you are, but no one touches Zabuza-sama. It's simple, girly. I'm the Juggernaut Juggernaut with the a finger flick sent Haku skipping across the bridge, where she slammed into Zabuza, who was struggling to his feet. Both lay there in a heap. Kane Marco, the unstoppable Juggernaut, turned towards the demon brothers. Oh look, leftovers. Kurenai watched as the feared demon brothers wet themselves. Scarlet Witch crossed her arms and sighed. Never get any fun. Kurini heard her mutter. These are the people Naruto grew up with. Juggernaut was not impressed by what the ninja considered criminals. While Juggernaut was playing, Naruto looked at the one person he never expected to find here. Shit, everyone back, he said. Hello, Blondie. A growl-filled voice said, no Wolverine here to help you this time. Creed, Nar muttered as both Morrow and X-23 took up stances on either side of him. The yellow mane of Sabretooth stood blocking the entrance of God's mansion. The team had been having an easy time with the mercenaries as Kirk teleported around with hit-and-run tactics. Shino and his bugs were wiping out the few low-level ninja, and Anko along with X-23 and Morrow carved a path of destruction while Kitty and Naro kept an eye out. It was then they'd seen the doors open and the muscular figure stepped out that raised the hackles on the back of Naruto's neck. I don't need Wolverine to kick your Nar said, pulling out several cards. And my papa sends his regards. Naruto threw the cards and left, already pulling out kana and charging them. This is a dangerous criminal. Juggernaut asks, if that's the case, he's a puss. Juggernaut, Wanda says. But Zabuza gets to his feet, shoving Haku aside, and picks up his cleaver sword, his other arm hugging his powdered ribs. You're a big one, the masked nin says. But you'll be dead just like the others. The bigger they are, the harder you'll fall. Zabuza lunges and Kurenai goes to stop him, but Wanda waves her off. Let Juggernaut handle it. He's been cooped up too long without any action. Kurenai wants to yell a warning as the huge sword swings, then shatters on Juggernaut's forearm. Zabuza is holding his shattered sword, a look of disbelief evident on his face. Haku, laying on the ground in pain, manages to throw some sunbon needles. Wanda, seeing them, sighs and snaps her fingers. The needles glow, then turn into small jewelry boxes and crash to the ground. Zabuza goes through several hand seals. Sweden. Sueryudan. No jutsu. He roared as water from the water below rushed up in the form of a dragon and lunged at the unstoppable Juggernaut. Wanda sent a hex bolt at the attack and it turned into butterflies and fluttered away. Ino and Hinata along with Kurenai were now fighting the demon brothers who decided they would have an easier time with the kunoichi. Delusional much, the Scarlet Witch, seeing that Juggernaut was in motion, strode towards where the masked nin was laying in pain. The mask was off, revealing the face of a girl around the same age as Naruto and his teammates. Say back. Haku hissed, obviously in pain from Juggernaut's finger flick earlier and being skipped across the bridge like a stone. Wanda watched as the girl in pain held up a handful of sunbon needles. She'd seen Nar use these, and while the whisker-marked boy tended to like cards like his father, she knew what the needles could do. Be at ease. If you surrender now, I can promise you will receive medical attention. Juggernaut was holding back when he hit you, but it seems ninja aren't designed to fight mutants. Spawn came flying at her and Wanda sighed as she hexed them. They melted long before they reached her as ice in an oven would across the bridge. Juggernaut rushed Zabuza. The rogue ninja was not having an easy time as his ribs were busted, his sword broken, and he was doing his best to avoid the big man who moved faster than he thought, and none of his attacks were affecting him. Nothing can stop the Juggernaut. The armored giant roared and Zabuza was learning that was true as he sent another Sweden attack that just splashed off the monster before him. The shoulder tackle sent him flying and Zabuza was cursing the day he agreed to work for Gato. Ino and Hinata kept the demon brothers busy and Kurana frustrated the pair with low-level genjutsu while keeping an eye on Suna. Can't let the client come to harm, she thought. Hinata came up from under Ino's roundhouse kick and a Juken strike knocked out one of the brothers. The girls didn't care which as they both were scum. No. The remaining one snarled and lunged with a claw. Poison dripping from the blade. Hinata spun went on the attack. 6 hits. The guy's arm left him standing there defenseless as Ino's foot came up with a flipping kick that connected solidly with his jaw and sent him skidding across the bridge. Let's see that clawed harlot top that. Ino said God's mansion. Nar left, his cards impacting around Saber-Tooth. Get back with the others. Finish the job. But Nar, I can deal with this bozo. The last time we fought I was 9 years old and still learning. He looked at Creed, and the only time he's gotten the best of Wolverine or my father was when he attacked them from behind or when someone else already did the hard part of wearing them down. Saber-Tooth snarled and lunged. Naruto ducked and performed a drop toe. Creed crashed to the ground. Marrow snarled. Go damn it. Enko will need you too if there are any others about. They left following the trail of bodies the snake Jonin had left. Nightcrawler and Kitty were dealing with more mercenaries with Shino's help. Well, boy, it's just an Uncle Victor. Then, Saber-Tooth said, brandishing a clawed hand. Nar snorted as the pair circled. You're delusional as usual, Creed. I don't fear you, and I'm not 9 years old and barely trained. I'm a fully fledged X-Man, a genin of Konoha. Nar pulled out more cards. I am the former container to the most feared of the tailed demon lords. And on my worst day, you can't beat me. Naruto bamped and appeared above the feral mutant. He sent a barrage of glowing red cards. And the only thing saving Saber-Tooth was his healing factor and reflexes. Nar continued to bamp port around, harassing Saber-Tooth with cards. Stay still and fight, brat. Creed snarled. Nar used chakra to hang on a high wall. Looked at the big mutant. Tell me, Creed, you can't be this stupid. I can't be bought off with a check like random boy. Creed said, oh, I know that the money is a bonus for people like you, Creed. You are a monster, but ask yourself this. Why do people like Magneto fear me? You ever wonder why he's ordered the Brotherhood and you acolytes to stay clear of me? I don't care what Magneto wants. You're nothing, Blondie. So, you have a few powers that are the same as some X-Men. Big deal. Creed snarled. Nar shook his head. Oh. The Kalobi copied a few abilities into my DNA before it died, and I am thankful for that. Nar said, but these aren't my mutation. He grins, and Creed gets a nervous look as Nar pulls his gloves off. You'll be the first one in the elemental nations here to see what my true power is. The X-Men know, but they'll never tell. Nar lunged. Enko stood over the cooling corpse of God when she heard the howl of fear and pain from behind out in the courtyard. What the hell? Maro blocked her path. Naruto's dealing with a dangerous mutant. Come on, we need to finish this. Enko grunted as she stepped over the former tyrant and went to the desk. Look for the safe, Nar said. It should be in the walls. The dead guards around the room indicated that the short little tyrant had put up a fight before his throat was slit. Maro and X-23 ignoring the blood spatter as they began their tasks. Enko started rummaging in the desk while her free hand danced over the keys to the computer that God had been working on, and she copied files. With all the tech we have, we still waste time with scrolls. She sighed. Sometimes she cursed the old-fashioned ways and traditions that the villages refused to let go of. I mean, really, we have iPods, computers, and televisions, yet we use scrolls to assign missions. Would it be so hard to use a printer or post-it notes? Enko sighed as she added another disk to the growing pile as she copied more files. Behind her, she could hear Maro and X-23 ripping apart a wall. So, you know Naruto's power? She asked casually. Both ex-girls shared a look. We do, but if he hasn't told or shown you, then we can't tell. X-23 said as she sliced the safe door open with a claw. Damn, Enko muttered, then seeing the claw. Don't those hurt? X-23 looked at her. Yep, she said, retracting the twin blades into her hand. Maro snorted. Pain and pleasure go hand in hand. And Nar knows what I like. X-23 looked at her teammate. Keep your calcium-plated hands off him. He's mine. Enko snorted as the two shared glares. Yaki's getting a herm. She muttered reading a file she pulled up. Shino heard the scream of pain and turned to find Nightcrawler blocking his path. Don't. Nar could use help. He doesn't. The tailed mutant said as he bamped them further away and helped Kitty with the group of thugs. Her Eskrima sticks bashing them left, right, and center while their attacks passed through her. An amazing power. Shino said. Yeah. Kitten is something to see. Kurt said fondly of his longtime friend. Shino looked over his shoulder, wondering why the howl of pain ended so suddenly. Elsewhere, a pair of red eyes studied the video footage of the battles taking place. The boy has come a long way. Red eyes studying the screen with the blonde who was walking away from the unconscious saber-tooth. Red eyes switched over to the other screens as well. A toothy grin could be seen. Yes, things are coming along nicely. God and his resources are no loss. Eyes went to the bridge where Zabuza was sent flying by Juggernaut's punch and the Scarlet Witch subdued the Hunter Nin. No loss there either. The girl is interesting, but nothing that hasn't been seen before. The demon brothers were bound, gagged, and ready for pickup by Abu this time with chakra cuffs. Yes, I will defiantly be keeping an eye on you and your team, Narutkin. A chuckle filled the air, and if anyone was there, they would be shaking in fear. Wanda shook her head. Zabuza vanished. The demon brothers each had a poison tooth and the Hunter Nin is a girl. Shaking his head as he looked over at his sensei who was talking with Suna. Creed was here. He healed enough while we were cleaning out God's place. I went too easy on him. Wanda put a hand on her nephew's shoulder. Creed's like a cockroach. Logan's had him many times and he slithered away. She smiled. Your girlfriends did very well. Nar sighed. What am I going to do? She followed his line of sight where X-23, Maro, Ino, and Hinata were talking, and from where he was, it looked rather heated, but thankfully none of them were pulling weapons or using powers. As a parent, I should tell you to pick one lady and tell the others gently that you are happy, Wanda said with a grin. And I'm sure that's what you're going to tell TJ when she dates. Damn right, but as my aunt, he asked. Wanda laughed and Naruto sighed. You suck. He muttered and wandered away, leaving a chuckling Scarlet Witch behind. Chaos is life, Nar, she called after him. He found Beast working on the EX jet. Why so glum, my young friend? My life is complicated. Beast was hanging upside down using his feet while working on some of the wiring in an exposed panel. Nonsense, Beast said. Beast, I have two girls here who, from the day I got here, made it their mission to date me. Back home, Sarah and Laura are, and now all four of them are, shudder, talking civilly. Beast grinned at this. Add in that as parent figures, we have Callisto, Logan, then Ino's parents, and no matter what I do, I'm screwed not to mention what mom will say. Beast chuckled. And yet, I noticed you didn't mention your father in there. Nar snorted. Papa will be proud and try and give me pointers. Beast outright laughed. That is true, but what of young Jubilee? I did not hear you mention her infatuation with you in this serial we call your life. Nar smirked. Morrow mentioned to me she's transferred to Boston and might have a boy there she likes. Beast's face took on a thoughtful expression. I do recall Emma mentioning something. Nar sighed. So you all going back? Yes. Our time here was limited and I am sure your mother will need to be reassured. Nar snorted. I'm surprised she hasn't. His phone chose that moment to go off. Beast chuckled. Ask and thou shalt receive. Flipping it open. Hello mother. Nar said hello mother me young man. Nar pulled the phone back and then looked at Beast who slipped his huge frame into the narrow crawl space. Coward, he muttered as he listened to his mother scold him. Random of all people. You are lucky Beast had people too. Mom, calm down a moment. Nar said as he paced back and forth. He saw Kurt smirk at him. Kitty outright laugh. Uncle Kurt and the others got here and we had no trouble at all. He began. Number trouble. Care to explain why $10 million disappeared from your account? His mother's voice came over the phone. Investment. Nar tried and cursed mentally that his mom kept an eye on his accounts. Not that he blamed her. After that time, he and Warren both went to a charity event in London and lost $3 million each in private poker game. It wasn't his fault. Longshot of all people was there. You and I are going to have a long talk when I see you, his mother threatened. How's dad? Nar asked, changing the subject. A bit banged up, he went toe-to-toe with Magneto's newest acolyte. He'll be fine by the time we come see you. Nar sighed. Mama, what's wrong, Shuga? His mother's Mississippi draw came through the phone. Nothing. Uncle Kurt and the others are heading back. I'll see you in a month. Nar, it's okay. Really, I'm sure Kitty and the others will have plenty to share. Kane's kind of disappointed with what they call criminal here. His mother chuckled. Kane's easy to disappoint unless he's going toe-to-toe with the Hulk. True, Nar admitted. He bid his mother farewell with promises to call her after he got back to Konoha. He slipped the phone away and turned coming face to face with a smirking Kitty Pride. Hey, Squirt, I'm taller than you now, Kit Kat. He reminded the girl his mother called her best friend. Talk with your sensei. Which one? Nar asked with a grin. Enko, remind me to keep her away from Logan. Kitty said, noted. The blonde answered with a grin. Anyways, she said that the demon brothers like a lot of ninja carry poison to kill themselves if captured with no hope of escape. Nar nodded. Yeah, I read about that before coming here. Barbaric if you ask me. As an ex-man, there's always a chance. Kitty smiled. I don't know. There were some close ones. She said for you perhaps, but then with your advanced years. Advanced years. I'll show you advanced years whiskers. Kitty said as she grabbed him in a headlock and gave him a noogie. Ah, quit it, Kitty. The blonde yelled as she ran her knuckles back and forth over his head quickly. He heard laughter and saw everyone was looking on. He made the cross seal and suddenly Kitty was hoisted into the air and tickled by clones. Ah, Naruto stoop. Kitty yelled trying to get away from the nimble fingers of the blonde shadow clones as they tickled her. He cheats. Wanda said Kurt from next to his wife shrugged. Kitty knows the risks when she roughhouses with Nar. He looked at Kerr and I. Well be heading out. Should you require aid, Nar knows how to get in touch. Nar came closer while his cage Bunchon continued to fight with Kitty who was now phasing through them. Sensei about the girl he asked still not having been around the captured hunter Nin. Well take her back to Konoha. There the Hokage can determine her fate. Kurenai said will administer a knockout sedative that will keep her unconscious until then. Nar nodded. He looked up and saw the four girls coming his way. Each of them shared the same look and that meant trouble for him. The adults smirked as the X-Men were boarding the X-jet. Nar was cornered and being kissed by Morrow, then X-23. Morrow pulled Ino aside. You keep him safe. Well be back for those exams. At which time you'll relinquish your sad idealistic crusade to take Naruto, as he is mine and Hinata's dream on Blondie. We might not be able to fight one another, but we will win Naruto in the end. As if you calcium-plated bimbo. Nar is ours. Both turned as X-23 continued to ravage Naruto's mouth. Is she kissing him or trying to devour him? Ino asked with a hint of disgust. Morrow smirked. Laura is ruled by her passions and she might be a bit enthusiastic. Come along you two. Wanda called from the ramp. Juggernaut was already on board and the only ones not were hurt. Wanda, X-23, and Marrow. X-23 pulled back from the dazed Naruto. Can't wait for the main course, she said and sauntered up the ramp, followed by a chuckling Morrow. Teammate watched as the EX jet lifted off and flew to the distance. Naruto sighed and looked around. Hey, where's Hinata-chan? Locked in the bathroom in Suna's house, Hinata rested her head against the sink. Her breathing was shallow and her body covered with sweat. No, I need more time. She splashed water in her face and pulled out a syringe from a pocket. Jabbing it into her neck, she felt the effects start inside. I can't tell them. My father would have me killed for certain, despite my longer being a Hyuga. She looked at her reflection. No visible effects. Good. She washed up and put the syringe away. They can't find out. They just can't. She thought before leaving the bathroom. Naruto looked at the prisoner, his head to one side, and you thought you could really pull off being a boy. Haku said nothing. Shaking his head, he sighed. You're far too pretty to ever be a boy. He turned, missing the shocked look in Haku's eyes as he left. He saw Anko and nodded. She entered the room. Sensei, Nar said, seeing Kurana waiting about the money, he pulled out a sealing scroll. What if it found its way back to the people of Wave? Kurana smiled. And here I thought you'd keep it. Naruto shook his head. Nah, it's more fun being Robin Hood than the sheriff. His teacher raised an eyebrow. A world above story. I'll let you borrow a copy. He looked up to the sky. Sensei, you ever have a feeling that everything you know is wrong? All the time, Kurini said. A week later, teammate left Wave. The bridge had been named the Great Hope Bridge and Tuzuna promised to send the payment along with extra for their efforts. Naruto with a fireman's carry carried the unconscious Haku as they made their way. The whole week Hinata had acted strangely jumpy. Ino had ignored it as she was happy to have extra time with Nar. The blondes even having time to go out and eat at a reopened restaurant. Now on the way home, Ino started to think about her friend's behavior and it worried her. Shino had noticed it all, but said nothing as it wasn't his business until it interfered with the team and the mission. But his Kikai bugs kept telling him something was off with Hinata. But he didn't know what and wouldn't bring it to the attention of the sensei until he knew what. Tag, Hinata said as she leapt away from Nar. They had been back in Konoha for 3 days and Hinata was acting more playful and it led to an impromptu game of ninja tag. Needless to say, the civilians were never happy when this game took place as it played havoc on their rooftops. Ino watched from below as she tried to catch her breath after the last round. It had been a merry chase all over Konoha. Naruto's godlike stamina made him perfectly designed for things like this. Ino smiled at the thought of what else the stamina could be good for. She watched the pair leap the rooftops like a pair of hyperactive squirrels. Ever since meeting Naruto's extended family, Ino had come to realize the time she would have Nar alone would be cut up even further. It's not like she didn't like Maro and X-23. They cared for Nar, and Ino couldn't fault them for that. But she remembered Maro's words before they left. Flashback. Get it right, Blondie. Next time we come here, Nar is ours. So enjoy keeping him warm for us. End flashback. She thinks Naruto will throw us aside. Ino thought. She watched as Naruto caught Hinata and spun her around before kissing her. I mean, yeah, she's a mutant like Naruto, but that doesn't seem to bother him that much. Ino smiled as Naruto leapt down with Hinata cradled in his arms. Hey, Enoch-chan, look who I caught. He said, you know what that means, don't you, Naruto-kun? She said with a grin. Hinata's eyes widened and she wiggled out of the blonde's arms trying to avoid what was about to come. Sadly, Ino was faster and soon Hinata's shrieks and giggles filled the air as she was tickled to the point of tears and threatening that she was about to pee that finally got the blondes to stop. Above in the shadows, Kurina and Anko looked down and smirked. It's good to see them still playing, Kurana said, her red eyes watching her team play and work out at the same time. Are we entering them in the exam? Anko asked. Kurina thought about it. The new Jonin is entering the Uchiha and his teammates. The idiot was boasting in the Jonin lounge. Kurenai shook her head. The Hokage hasn't formally announced it and the idiot is jumping the gun. He's boasting that with the Uchiha on his team, they should just promote his team and be done with it. Idiot. Enko muttered. They had seen how the Uchiha and his team functioned in Wave and they knew that the team was no way ready for the exams. Teammate had come back to Konoha to find out that random that they met in Wave was gone and the council had promoted a Chunin to Jonin and put him in charge of the Uchiha's team. I think we should. Anko said they are ready and Naruto wouldn't let anything happen to Ino nor Hinata. She said Kurina knew that her friend and lover was right. She smirked as well. Besides, if we don't, I think Naruto would rob the council blind. His fingers get sticky when he has nothing to occupy them. A shriek from below told the pair that Ino was now being tickled by Naruto and Hinata. I can see that, Enko said with a smirk. Think we should give them the talk? Enko asked with a grin. Kurini shook her head. They were given that in the academy and Naruto is already experienced. Enko smirked. Really? Kurini laughed. You go and tell them that I'm going to enter them in the Chunin exams. I need to speak with the Hokage. Enko smirked. I get to play. Yes. Kur and I. Her eyes narrowed a moment as she saw something. Then shaking her head, she shined away. Enko laughed and dove down, landing before the pile of genin that had the girls pinning Naruto and tickling him. Do I need to hit you three with a sweetened jutsu? Enko asked. The girls didn't move, but looked up and froze. Nar took a moment, but managed to get his breath and smirked. Jealous Enko-sensei. She mocked, scowled, and narrowed her eyes. Don't go there, Gaki. Faye, you wouldn't do anything. The whisker-marked boy said. Enko knew a challenge. Clear out, girls. Enko growled. Ino and Hinata both looked nervous and scrambled to their feet. Nar with a boneless grace slid to his feet and smirked. Alone fee. Nar said with a bring motion. Enko snarled. Sen Jashu. She roared as a dozen snakes shot out from the cuffs of her jacket. All of them aimed at the smirking blonde. Hogue's office. It's that time of the year already. The Hokage said seated before the gathered Jonin. As Jonin stepped forward and announced their teams not being ready, save for made a guy who said his team was burning with the fires of youth and would be happy to take the exams finally this year. Asuma stepped forward, but the newest Jonin cut him off. I raised Jonin instructor for Special Unit 7 consisting of Kabuto Yukushi Saikenpachi and Sasaki Uchiha nominate my team for this Chunin exam. Kurana and Asuma shared a look and shook their heads. Kurana motioned for Asuma to go next. Asuma Saru Tobi John instructor for Team 10 consisting of Ka Anuka Sakura Haruno Shikamaru Nara and Choji Akamaki nominate my team for this Chunin exam. He finished by lighting his cigarette and puffing smoke towards Ray's. Kurana steps forward and flips her bangs out of her eyes. Aokiri Yui John instructor for teammate along with Special John and Enko Midarashi nominate Hinata Shino Arame Enino Yamanaka and Naruto Uzuaki Namikaze Labao for this Chunin exam. The Hokage smiled and was about to speak when Iruka who was acting as his aide today spoke up. You can't, Iruka. The Hokage asked, raising an eyebrow. They aren't ready for this. They just left the academy a couple months ago. The Chunin exams will crush them. Asuma puffed on his cigarette inside perhaps, but it is also a learning experience that they want. My team keeps asking for missions harder than danks and escort missions. Her and I brushed her hair aside that had fallen in her face. They are no longer academy students. Saruka Sanshi began and Asuma is right in that it can be used as a learning experience for them to see that they might or might not be ready. Reyes spoke up next. Just because your own exams were traumatic, do not lump our students with your weak class. The man said harshly, they are ninja of Konoharuka. The Hokage said more importantly, they are my soldiers. The Jonin here are commanders and if they think their students can handle the exams then so be it. They spoke for several minutes about the exams and the Jonin grabbed the forms for their teams and left. Kurenai and Asuma remained behind. Yes, the Hokage said once the door was closed. What happened to Random? Kurenai asked. He broke his contract with the council upon returning with his team. Sartobi said shaking his head. I really don't want the Uchiha in the exam. He muttered. Well, he has yet to activate his sharing. That's something. Asuma said, puffing on his cigarette. Yes, but the stress of the exam might do that, Kurenai said. She looked at the Hokage. Sir, I know it's every team for itself, but I have a feeling that the Uchiha might seek my team out. Asuma and his father looked at her. Explain. The elder male said during the mission at Wave, the Uchiha continued to show that he should not be a ninja, attacking allies once again. And when he was ordered back to Konoha, he had a fit and Random knocked him out, forcing his teammates to carry him back. And you think he's going to use the exams to try and get revenge on Naruto for the slights that he gave him? Yes, sir. Naruto has avoided him so far, but Enko and I have seen the Uchiha trying to stalk Naruto several times during training. He's holding back so that the Uchiha doesn't see anything. Why are you letting the council get so much control, Pop? Ama asked. The Uchiha's behavior on a mission would result in disciplinary actions, but nothing has been done. Akira Saruto Sidate. Nar asked me that during his Genin exam. I told him that I allowed them to gain power just to not worry about things after I took office again. Now it's become an issue and it's a mess that I will have to clean up. He looked at Kurana. And how is Nar doing? He and his teammates are bonding. Shino has a family obligation today, but should be ready tomorrow. Nar and the girls continue to bond. She smirked, remembering the game of tag and tickle war she'd just seen. Nar isn't using his skills yet to their fullest. She paused. I am concerned that he might be leaving Konoha with the way many of the civilians continue to treat him. The Hokage nodded as he loaded his pipe. I know, he said softly. I am hoping his relationship with Ino or Hinata will convince him to stay. Kurana snorted. Both girls indicated that they would quit being ninja and follow him back to the world above with his family. Serbi sighed as he used a cadence spark to light his pipe. You met some of them. What do you think? If they wanted to take Naruto back, I don't think we could stop them. Kane Marco, who calls himself the Juggernaut, is impervious to harm. With a finger flick powdered Haku's ribs. Zabuza's sword shattered when it hit him. Frankly, mirrored Naruto's family if they wanted could conquer Konoha with a very small number. Enko saw some of their abilities and Naruto's shown several skills he's mimicked. Akira Serbi nodded and they indicated they were coming to see Naruto in the Chunin exams. He muttered, Asuma blew a smoke ring. From the sounds of it, I'd like to see the civilians insult Naruto in front of his family. Kurini chuckled. It would deal with the surplus population in an entertaining way. The Hokage groaned. The paperwork would be a he muttered. Hidden location, master. The Chunin exams are approaching and are held in Konohagakure. The kneeling figure said in the shadows, the only light in the room was from a monitor near the throne. And the boy, he's been entered by his John and instructor along with his team. The kneeling figure said, very well, prepare a team. I think it's time we see what he can do. The kneeling figure vanished. While the one on the throne studied the screen and its coded information soon, Nar sat meditating. He was upset with himself. Yesterday, after Anko had dismissed them after training, Naro had dropped the girls off at the flower shop and promised to meet them for dinner. And then instead of meeting them like I had planned, I robbed the merchant district and led Andrew on a 5-hour chase. Sigh, I have problems. The blonde thought as he tried to find his center. Add in the girls were mad and didn't feel like accepting my apologies, and I couldn't tell them what I was doing. I mean, Papa told me to never share that. He doesn't tell Mama, and I can't tell the girls, even though I know that Mama knows what Dad does on his trips, but she never scolds. Naruto knew that today was going to be a long day. He just hoped the girls would let him lie his way into an apology. I need to make sure Anko gets her cut. Last night, his escape became possible when Anko out of nowhere pulled him into a dango stand and gave him an alibi. And all it will cost me is 10% from last night's take. Shaking his head, he went to get ready for the day. Across town at the Yamanaka residence, Ino and Hinata were getting ready for the day. Do you think we were too hard on Naruto last night? Hinata asked while Ino was working her hair. The blonde had it trimmed down to match what Laura had cut back in wave. No, he's got to learn that if this is going to work, he's got to make an effort. Ino said as she looked at Hinata, who was wrapping her ankles and lacing up the boots Naruto had gotten her. He did try to explain and apologize. Hinata pointed out, and it's not like he's done it frequently. Ino slammed the brush down. You let him start it now and he'll do it all the time. He's got to learn that he can't do that. Hinata didn't agree. She felt a stirring in her chest and excused herself, taking her jacket with her. I'll meet you downstairs, she said, hurrying from the room. Ino sighed. She goes to the bathroom more than cousin Kira, who's got a bladder infection, she muttered as she finished getting ready and making sure she had her weapons and items headed downstairs to wait for Hinata. And listen. As her mother complained about the amount of time the girls were putting into ninja training, Hinata slumped against the door as the coughs began. Her hands shaking, she pulled out the injector and after checking it over, stabbed it into her neck and pressed the plunger. She waited while the chemical kicked in inside as the shakes and coughs subsided. Why is this happening now? She thought miserably. I need more time. I can't. She closed her eyes and focused. She heard Ino downstairs yelling for her to get a move on. Reloading the injector. She slipped it into her jacket, washed her hands, and hurried. She reached the bottom of the stairs and accepted the napkin with rolls and fruit from Ino's mom. Now you both really should sit down and have a real breakfast. It can't be good skipping a meal with all the running around you girls do. Well, be fine, Mom. Ino said with an impatient sigh. Can we go? We need to get to the training field. Hinata nodded, and the two hurried out after yelling goodbye. Eniki came down. Was that the girls? Yeah, they were in an awful rush. I wonder what's going on. His wife said, well, he told her about last night and Ino's overreaction to Nar being late and not letting him explain. Oh dear, I know, Eninoy said with a sigh. Teenage girls, how troublesome. He winced as his wife slapped him across the back of the head and scolded him about spending too much time with his friends in bars. Enko and Kurini looked at their students. Shino was sitting in the middle with Ino and Hinata on his left. Naruto was sitting up in the tree. What happened? Kurini whispered to Anko. The snake John and looked at her and shrugged and muttered. Not a clue. Kurini cleared her throat. Good morning. Shino welcomed her in his usual tone and the others seemed to echo it. I have here applications for the Chunin exams. Now you need to decide it as a team if you're going to do this. If you don't think you're ready, well keep out and just give them the forms. Enko said, but Enshin, hand them out. Our team is the best Genin team and you nominated them already. All they need to do is sign the release forms and show up this Friday at the academy. Enko said. Kerr and I handed out the forms. And Enko continued, be on the third floor, room 3001 Friday. If one of you doesn't show, the whole team can't take part. Ino made a sound. Yes, Ino, Kerr and I asked. Nothing. Just thinking that some people don't know how to show up on time is all. I said I was sorry, Naruto said from his perch. Enko now understood what was going on and pulled Kurana back as the blondes started to argue. It would have been something if you were 10 minutes late, even half an hour. But you were over 3 hours late and then you can't even come up with a decent excuse. Ino said, getting to her feet and glaring up at the blonde. It was one time, Ino. It's not like it happens all the time. Nar said, that's how it starts. Ino fired back. It was just dinner. It's not like it was important. Nar said in the moment the words left his mouth, he knew he'd said the wrong thing. As Ino's eyes widened along with Hinata's eye, he started to say, but Ino stormed away. Nar flipped off the branch, landed on his feet, and took 2 steps before Hinata blocked his path. I need to stay here, Hinata said. I will talk with her. She hurried after the blonde. That did not go well, Shino said, his Kikai bugs making a humming sound. Smooth whiskers, Enko said. Naruto shot her a look. I don't think we'll be getting any training done today, Kurenai said. She looked at Enko, who now seemed to know what set the blondes off, and at a glance, Kurenai knew she'd tell her later. Meet here tomorrow morning at 7. We'll work on strategy for the exams. She told Shino and Nar. I'll let the girls know, she told them. Nar slumped against the tree. What a Dizerdre, he muttered and bamped away. Shino looked at the sensei. Something happened that's aggravated Ino beyond reason. Enko nodded. If this isn't fixed by tomorrow, we'll sit them down and sort it out, even if I have to chain them together. Kurana remembered last time Inko did that and shuddered. I don't think that it will come to that. Spoil sport. Hinata caught up to Ino at the field near the academy where the younger years learned flower arrangements. What is really bothering you? She asked when Ino sat on the ground and pulled a flower and started to rip the petals off. No, Ino, the real reason. You're overreacting to Nar being late for the first time ever. What's going on? Ino sat silently, then sighed. When she spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. The Tunin exams are here. Hinata knew that, but remained quiet, knowing that if she said anything, Ino would use it as an excuse to stop speaking. He's going to leave, Ino said, her voice trembling. What makes you say that? Hinata asked, but she knew it to be true. The villagers still treated Naruto like he was the Kobe, even knowing that it was no longer a part of him. He's going to go back and be with her. And an Ino's soft sob had Hinata pull her into a hug. I thought we talked about this, Hinata said while the blonde cried. I thought we talked about going with him. It was true. The two of them talked long at night about Naruto and the future. His going back to the world above was something they talked about. I don't know. I'm scared. Ino admitted. I am too. Hinata admitted. But if we give up on him now, then nothing will stop him from being with Laura and Sarah and we'll have no one to blame but ourselves. Ino sighed. I hate when you make sense. I had a perfectly good mad going on. Hinata smiled and pulled out a handkerchief and handed it to Ino. Dry your eyes. We need to find Naruto and speak with him. Clear the air. Ino took it and did as instructed. Kami, I am such a brat. Yeah, but Naruto loves you regardless. Hinata said and smiled as Ino nudged her with her shoulder. So, I overreacted and made a mountain out of a molehill. And you do it so well, Hinata said as they stood. Let's find Naruto. They looked high and low all around Konoha at all of Naruto's usual hangouts, but no sight of the blonde. They ran into many of the other rookies, even Iruka, who was on a date with a Yame from the ramen stand, but no one had seen Nar. They came across Shino in the public garden. His Kikai bugs were floating around him. Shinken, Hinata called, have you seen Nar? Ino cut across Hinata. Manners. No. The Abaram heir said. He teleported away after Kurana and Enko told us to meet tomorrow morning at 7 for strategy meetings and training for the exam. Both girls shared a look. Have you tried his home? Shino inquired. We did, but no one answered. Ino said he regretted his words. Shino said, I know. I overreacted and I need to speak with him to apologize. The blonde admitted. Don't you have us bugged? Hinata asked. Not in the village, Shino admitted. Naruto told me not to, as it was rude. If you see him, will you tell him I'm looking for him to apologize, please? Ino said as she started to lead Hinata away. Shino watched them go. One of his bugs landed on his finger and he looked at it. No, it is not our concern, he said. A moment's pause as if listening. No. Hinata's business is hers unless it interferes with a mission. The Kikai bug seemed to stamp one of its legs, and Shino chuckled. I know, humans are strange, but then so are insects. Shino and his bugs went back to studying the various fauna of the public garden and introducing themselves to the various insects there. Namikaze Mansion. Nar looked at the picture of him, Ino, and Hinata. They had been out for the night and had squished into the photo booth. All three grinned at the camera. Maybe I should just leave now, he thought, his finger tracing the faces on the picture. Perhaps it would be best. The villagers don't want me here. Ino's mad and will probably break up with me. He looked at the photo of him and Gambit. It had been taken earlier in the year while they were in New Orleans for Mardi Gras. Both had huge grins. Friend, brother, father, you became so much to me over the years. You and the rest of the X-Men taught me all I know. Flashback. 9-year-old Naruto looked around the danger room. He'd been curious to check it out. And with the X-Men out on a mission to the Middle East, and most of X-Force somewhere in Mexico, the mansion was rather empty. You do realize that you shouldn't be in here unsupervised. A voice had him turn. Oh, hey Dom. Aren't you supposed to be with Cable and the others? Domino smirked. And leave you here alone? The white-kinned woman with the black mark-covered eye asked, quirking an eyebrow. Bishop is here. He's in the motorpool when he should be keeping a certain blonde out of mischief. I swear, kiddo, you cause more havoc than the entire X-Force team combined. I do not. Domino quirked an eyebrow. Tell you what, since you're here, how about I teach you how to create explosives and hotwire cars? Nar looked at her as she called up a program, and soon the pair were surrounded by workbenches loaded with explosive parts in a car. Does the professor know you have this program in his computer? Nar asked. Domino smirked. I don't know and I don't ask. It's better to ask for forgiveness than to beg for permission. Besides, Tabitha has a Rock Lia concert in here as well. The pair spent the next 4 hours making explosives, and Nar learned how to not only hotwire a car, but to strip it down and rebuild it from the ground up. End flashback. Rogue was not impressed. Nar thought of all the skills he picked up over the years from the various inhabitants of the Institute, not to mention from those outside the mansion. Flashback. Now, Nar, the camera should be an extension of what you see. Peter Parker said as they sat on a ledge high above Times Square. You know, Peter, when they left me in your care to fight Juggernaut, I don't think they thought you'd bring me up here to get photos of their fight. Peter smiled. You are far from the battle which I promised Storm and I get some great pictures to sell to old JJ. Peter said as he showed Naruto how to take pictures. I'll come by the mansion later to show you how to develop your own pictures. But I got a digital camera, Nar said, and Peter gave him a scandalized look. You have much to learn, my young Padawan. End. Flashback. Hey, who knew that Peter would show me how to web swing? Of course, Rogue wasn't thrilled with that experience either. Flashback. It's bad enough we have the Brotherhood or Magneto's acolytes storming the Institute, but to take him into battle with Marco of all people. Rogue was yelling at Gambit, who tried to calm her down. Now easy share, no harm. Peter had him well away. He took him web swinging. What if he slammed into a building? Peter wouldn't have allowed that petite. Rogue growled and stormed from the room, swearing about idiot males and daredevil children with no common sense. End flashback. Naruto sighed and looked at the Chunin exam form. Should I endanger my teammates? He thought. Granted, his family said they'd show up for the finals if he made it. Well, Mama and the others plan on coming regardless, but picking up a pen, it hovered over the line, not moving or touching the paper. Hinata looked at Ino, who was pacing back and forth. Shino was leaning against the wall, silently, watching the blonde as well, his Kikai bugs giving him information from their scouting mission he'd sent them on. Where is he? Ino said. It had been several days since they'd seen Naruto. A messenger had arrived at the training ground the following morning with a message for Kurana. Flashback. Well, give Anko and Nar 10 more minutes before. A Chunin appeared next to Kurana with a scroll bearing the Hogue seal. He wordlessly handed it to her and shined away again. Kurana read it silently, rolled it up, and tucked it away. Well, start with some drills and basic plans and do that until lunch. After that, well, do a think tank with ideas. And Sensei, what about Naruto and Anko? Sensei. Ino asked. The redate Janite. Nar will rejoin you the morning of the exam. He and Anko were pulled for a mission this morning by the Hokage himself and won't be back until then. But won't that mess up everything we learn and plan? Ino asked. Anko knows what I plan on showing you. Shall make sure that Naruto is ready by Friday. Kurini said flashback as it was Team M8 was ready for the Chunin exams or as ready as they could be. Kurini had mock interrogations with her genjutsu speed drills, survival drills, capture the flag, and even had them play chess. For this she'd managed to convince Shikimara's father to help. And he played 3 games at once against her team and one which had her students learning chess from scrolls in their free time. They were only missing their last teammate who they hadn't seen in a week. And for the 2 girls, it was a week of hell as they wanted to speak with the whisker-marked blonde. The female blonde nearly having a breakdown one night saying she chased him away. A slap from Hinata had ended that babble fest. Where is he? Ino said again. He'll be here. Hinata said again. The exam is about to start and he's right here. Enoch-chan. Ino spun and saw Nar standing there in cargo pants and a mesh shirt with his long coat. And those fingerless gloves. His hair was spiked in a tail. Even from here, she could tell he was wearing that body armor. Sorry I'm late. We had a little trouble with the mission. Enko-sensei is filling in the Hogue as we speak. Shino chuckled softly, seeing the girl speechless. Ino's eyes dilated and she licked her lips. We should head in, the Arame said, his voice low. Naruto nodded and went and opened the door. Ladies, he said with a slight bow of his head. Both shook themselves and entered. They both had so much to say, but it seemed like the drama of teammate would have to wait till later. Right now, it was time for the first phase of the Tunin exam. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Welcome back, Hinata said as she passed him, pausing to kiss his cheek. Ino was motionless, her eyes on him. Shino passed him. I am not kissing you. Thanks, Nar said with a grin. The 2 blondes were left looking at one another. Welcome back, Ino said softly. He gave her a smile. It's okay, he said. We'll talk later. Ino nodded and stepped in. She paused and gave Naro a soft kiss on the lips. He smiled and she entered the building. Naruto right behind her. Teammates skipped the crowded area on the second floor. They saw many team believing the genjutsu. Looks like things will be easier with so many teams log-jammed here. Naruto said they were at the top of the 3rd flight of stairs when they heard the arrogant voice of Sasuke Uchiha telling the Chunin to drop the genjutsu. Idiot, and they consider him a prodigy. Shino said as they watched as Sasaki and his teammates ruined the genjutsu that was eliminating the other teams. Isn't that your cousin? Nar asked and Hinata nodded. Neji, she said softly, the blonde hearing a note of sadness in her voice. He got stuck in that, Ino asked. Naruto shook his head. It looked like his team was helping get rid of the others by playing into it. That one there looks like a Gaimoto clone. And if he's like him, it's a ruse. Team 8 waited until Team 7 had caught up. You've made it, Dobi. Sasaki sneered. You really are an idiot, underscore. A Sasaki sneered, blowing the genjutsu like that you allowed teams and that shouldn't be. Shino said, his eyes landing on Sai. But then you are Sasuke Uchiha, not known for thinking things through. What do you mean by that, Dabi? Nar smirked as he and his team walked away, seeing Neji Hyuga and his team approaching. Figure that out, Sasuke-chan. Oh, and don't be late. Teammate walked away as they heard Sasaki say something to Nae. Idiot. No one here cares who he is and what his bloodline is. In the classroom, a grass nin sneezed. You made it. Kurana greeted them. Hey sensei, Naruto handed her a pouch. Enko-sensei is meeting with Oji-san and giving him our report. Shall meet you later. Very well. Now remember, you are a team. You stand together and you'll be fine. No gung-ho cowboy stunts and trust one another to watch your backs. We will, sensei, Hinata said. She felt her hand tremble a bit and slipped it into a pocket. They heard a disturbance and saw the Uchiha be flattened by Guy's clone. What an idiot, Ino said. Ready? Kurenai asked, looking at each. They shared looks and nodded, then entered the room. Hey, pig, forehead. Nar shook his head as he took in the room. Rock, grass, sand, leaf, cloud, rain are all represented here already, he thought. He and Shino greeted Shikimaru, Ka, and Choji. The 5 boys watched Ino and Sakura trade insults. Feels like old home week at the academy. Ka muttered. Troublesome females, Shikamaru muttered while Choji's words were lost in his mouth full of chips. Hinata reappeared next to Naruto as Neji and his teammates entered. The bun-haired girl was scolding the mini guy. I swear Lee, if sensei wouldn't have stepped in, he stopped, his eyes on Sakura. What beautiful woman. Nar smirked at this and nudged Hinata, who looked on as the green leotard wearing Genin walked up and spoke to Sakura. Ino backed away and once she was with Nar burst out laughing. Oh, this is priceless. Be nice, Enoch-chan. Nar said, but it's funny for like ever Sakura wanted Sasaki, but now they watched as the now identified Lee went to a knee and proclaimed his love for Sakura and he would defend her until the end. The look of revulsion on Sakura's face was noticed by all. Except for Lee, it seemed as he went on to tell her he would show his undying love for her by passing the Chunin exams. And if I don't, then I will run laps around Konoha on my hands until you tell me to stop my love. Nar shook his head. Now that's wrong. Funny, but wrong. Sasake's arrival was ignored by all. Sakura was too busy trying to get away from Lee to see his arrival, and none of the others gave a damn about the Uchiha. His teammate Kabuto tried to garner some attention with his ninja info cards, but no one cared. He badmouthed that ninja from the new Sound Village and they attacked him. Naruto looked at Shino. Did that smell like a setup? Yes. The bug user said the fact he's supposedly in possession of information that is restricted and he's a genin. You think he's a council spy? Shino said he's a spy, but I don't know if he's the council's. Nar muttered. We know Sai is part of Root. I doubt the council would put two spies around the Uchiha. A touch on his arm had him look at Hinata. Naroke, she said softly. Sasake's teammate Kabuto is edging closer. She whispered. He nodded but didn't turn around. Something we can do. To you for Yukushi-san. I would like to apologize for my teammates' words earlier and in wave. He thinks highly of himself. Several snorts from the gathered genin told Kabuto what they thought of that. You can't apologize for him. It would be meaningless as he keeps doing what he does. He should never have made genin and shouldn't be in these exams. Shino said, go back to your team, Yukushi-san. We don't trust you or your teammates, so this fishing expedition is useless. Nar said. The glasses shimmered for a moment, and Kabuto finally bowed his head and returned to his place across the room. Idiot. Everyone looked at each other and laughed as they'd all said it at the same time. All right, settle down, Ibiki, Nar muttered. Let the games. So guys, what do you think about this Naruto story? Tell me your opinion in the comments. And if you want more Naruto what if stories, make sure to subscribe to Universe of Naruto. Thanks for watching.